A one-win Big 12 team against the fourth-ranked team in the country.
Touchdown! Jermaine Monday!
Is it balanced and caught by King? It is!
Touchdown! Oh my goodness!
They pull off the unthinkable against the TCU Horned Frogs.
And it's Aaron Green. Touchdown!
Great punt. Looper on the run. Down the left-hand sideline. Cuts it back at the 20. 68-yard return of the punt.
How could you not love college football?
Oh, man.
Well, there's the only evidence you need to watch this game, despite on paper looking lopsided. Last year, TCU had to rally from a 10-point second-half deficit while they were the number 4 team in the country to win that game. And all 3 games as members of the Big 12 against each other have been relatively close. Let's bring in the third member of our crew now. Here's Chris Button.
Thanks so much, Joe. Just to clear up any confusion, TCU wide receiver Josh Dotson will play today despite injuring his left wrist last week. On Thursday, Gary Patterson was on the radio, and they misunderstood what he said and tweeted out that Dotson was out for the rest of the season. In today's day and age, that got retweeted, to the point where Patterson had to go on Twitter himself. Yes, the old school coach even has his own Twitter page, and he wrote, Josh Dotson will play. So there you have it from the coach himself. He told us that Dotson practiced all week. I watched him today. He's out here. That left wrist is heavily wrapped, but he was out early catching passes. So we will just see how much he does play today, Joe.
Power of social media, huh?
I bet Gary Patterson never thought at any point in time he would end up having a Twitter account.
Yeah.
But it would eventually come to this with his coaching career. He'd be communicating with the masses through Twitter.
He's the 5th longest tenured FBS coach, 15th season as the head man. The opposite of that would be David Beatty in his first season, still looking for his first win. He grew up in Wiley, Texas, northeast of DFW, was the head coach not too far from here at MacArthur High School for 4 seasons earlier in his career. TCU won the toss, deferred to the second half. Overcrome kicks it away, and off we go from Fort Worth. This is Ryan Shadler, who's taken one back for a touchdown this season. And Kansas will begin at the 22-yard line. This offense that's dealt with injuries and an experience. Brady, give us what we're watching for.
The true freshman quarterback, Ryan Willis, for Kansas, has given Kansas fans some hope for the future, but he's going to have to take care of the football today and not try to necessarily worry about outscoring TCU's offense. And he's going to go up against a defense that struggled last week, some blown coverages on the back end. Derek Kindred needs to get this secondary back on track, and TCU's defense back as one of the top in the Big 12.
Now, Brady, the Horned Frogs gave up 5 plays of 25 yards or longer. That 49-29 loss at Oklahoma State, snapping the 16-game winning streak. This game begins from the 23-yard line. And straight ahead goes Taylor Cox into the teeth of the TCU defense, which normally is a strength for this program, but they've dealt with injuries on the defensive side. 16 first-time starters for TCU on defense this year.
Had 22 different starters over the course of the season, but really up front, they're starting to get healthy again. That defensive line, all those players are interchangeable, and they do a great job of getting penetration in the run game.
2nd down and 7. Willis to throw for the first time. On time and on target to Steven Sims, who missed last week, was suspended one game along with Trey Parmalee. But Ryan Willis completes his first pass, dealing with a couple of sore groins.
And the Kansas offense missed Trey Parmalee, and they missed Steven Sims. These are guys who are more of their sure-handed wide receivers. And you can see on film last week versus Texas, they needed those guys.
From the 34, here's a trick play. Parmalee getting a block. But a nice job by O'Mealy to stay home and allow his teammates to rally on a short gain.
Well, what do you got to lose early in the game versus the number 13 team in the country? Why not pull out some trickeration? Bring in some of those reverses, some of these plays. See if you can catch TCU maybe sleeping with this early start.
True freshman from Overland Park, Kansas is Willis. Making his 6th start, his 4th one out of those 6 against a top 15 opponent. Steps into the pocket, heaving one down the sideline and incomplete. Looked like Sims broke off the route and he threw it deep. It's 3rd and 7.
There's been some miscommunications on the outside with some of the wide receivers for Kansas that have led to a couple turnovers for Ryan Willis this season, but putting himself in 3rd and long is where Kansas really seems to struggle. They'd like to try to keep the sticks within 3rd and 4 or closer and give themselves an opportunity to still be able to run the football.
Opening drive for the Jayhawks, 3rd down and 7. 8 drop into coverage. It's a screen, and Sims is drilled by TCU's leading tackler, Traven Howard, for a loss of 5, and Kansas brings out the punt team.
Traven Howard was able to sniff out this screen because they were in man-to-man coverage. And as soon as he saw his man go to release for this screen, he immediately got his eyes back on the quarterback and found Sims.
Cavante Turpin, #1 punt returner in the Big 12. Will have a chance here on a line drive, but instead lets it bounce. And down at the 32-yard line. Only a 36-yard effort for Ethan Perry. TCU's offense, one of the most prolific in college football history, takes the field.
Yeah, but quarterback Trevon Boykin had, you could arguably say, one of the worst outings last week. Statistically, he put up a lot of yards, was still able to have an effect on the game, but 4 interceptions is the most in his collegiate career. We all know about Josh Dotson, but it's really been Nixon and Turpin and the slot wide receivers who have emerged this season.
They especially had to last week during the second half after Dotson left the game in the second quarter with that left wrist injury. And TCU begins things from the 31-yard line. First carry goes to Kyle Hicks. Good penetration from Corey King to drop him for a loss. A Kansas defense dead last nationally. Scoring defense, total defense, pass defense.
But they've found a way to find some bright spots, in particular number 46, defensive end Dorrance Armstrong. He's one of those younger guys. They're really excited about his future.
2nd down 11. First throw for Boykin. All day to scan the field. He'll take off. Makes a cut on Deneen and gets a few. Joe Deneen, sophomore from Lawrence, ran him down. They've got him at a 3rd down and 8.
There was only 3 men out in the passing routes and nowhere to go with the football. Credit the Kansas secondary being able to cover down. Double coverage on number 7, Colby Listenby. Up top on Josh Dotson, the same thing. I think this is going to be a common theme, forcing Trevon Boykin to stay inside the pocket and make a lot of those intermediate throws. Oklahoma State tried to make him do it last week, and he struggled.
And it's something that Kansas did with relative success against TCU last year in that 4-point game in Lawrence. They bring 4 this time. Lofted to the sideline. Sean Nixon can't get away from Marquise Roberts. And on paper, as great of a mismatch as you can have with the TCU offense against the Kansas defense, it's a 3-and-out to start.
Yeah, and a mismatch. What you'd want is probably a mismatch with Nixon working on Marquise Roberts at the linebacker position. Nixon comes off the ball on a little option route, but not able to get upfield and get the sticks for the first down. You'd like him to run that route around the first down yard marker.
And a fair catch taken at the 16-yard line on a 47-yard punt. Couple of punts on the opening drives from these two squads. Back to Fort Worth after this. FS1 College Football is presented by Cade Jewelers. Back here in Fort Worth, the 3-and-out for TCU's offense to begin. Trevon Boykin appears to be okay. It was kind of an awkward tackle that Joe Deneen made on him. Watch his right leg here get crunched up pretty good.
Always one of your concerns with a dual threat quarterback is him being able to get down and not take a lot of the nasty hits. TCU's offense has had a ton of injuries this season.
So Kansas back to work with Ryan Willis. Completed his two of his first 3 passes on that opening drive. Heaving one down the sideline for Booker. This is something Oklahoma State was able to do last week against TCU's secondary, but that one's incomplete.
Yeah, the Kansas offense has been primarily built on a short passing game, quick passes to the outside, because they haven't been able to protect Ryan Willis. But obviously they've taken a couple shots now early on in this game. They want to get this TCU defense kind of back on their heels and not allow them just to sit and squat on some of their shorter throws.
Empty set, 2nd and 10. Horned Frogs bring 4. Speed out, Steven Sims. With his 3rd catch, Traven Howard with the tackle, gain of 3. And 3rd down and 7 for Kansas.
And Sims is going to run what's called a return route. He's going to push inside and then break right out of the cut, back out where he finds the soft space. The quickness is really what Kansas missed last week versus Texas, with Sims being out.
Willis gets hit and goes down. Aaron Curry got to him. And it's 4th down in the blink of an eye for Kansas.
It appears as if Kansas was trying to set up a screen to the left side. Taylor Cox wasn't able to really release in time, and Ryan Willis had that internal clock go off in his head and thought, I better get up towards the line of scrimmage to try to get what I can.
Turpin back to return another from Matthew Wyman. Hardly any hang time. Turpin grabs it at midfield. Cavante Turpin cutting it against the grain, spinning his way free, using his speed to the sideline with blocks and a TCU touchdown. The hang time on that punt was less than 3 seconds, and he took it back 49 yards.
And obviously, Cavante Turpin had some blocking, but if you could freeze it right here, he's going to end up pulling off a spin move, and this is every defensive player's nightmare in the country. He's trying to tackle Cavante Turpin in the open field. He's got so much speed, so much ability, but he's so shifty and hard to bring down in open space.
And an extra point blocked last week. Not the case here. Oberchrome punches it through. Cavante Turpin with a 49-yard touchdown. Whoa. Thing of beauty. Highlight reel right there. Horned Frog strike first on special teams.
Let's take a look at this last touchdown on the punt return. This is a punt return set up for the right side of the field. As Cavante Turpin takes off, the Kansas defense ends up trying to be able to bottle him up and stop him, but then freeze. It looks like he's going to be able to be brought down. Kansas defenders are all around him, but now it's the speed and the elusiveness of Turpin with the spin move on Taylor Cox. Unbelievable. And he's got the speed to be able to get to the pylon and some help from his teammates along the way.
Sometimes you see burners that, have one speed and just take off. It was a beautiful job of being patient, setting those blocks up.
And he's so fast, he's got the ability to start and stop at the blink of an eye.
That kick goes into the end zone. Kansas will start at the 25-yard line in a 7-0 hole. Jayhawks have not led since Week 2 against Memphis. And Ryan Willis, the freshman, will try and get something going on this side of the ball. He entered camp as the 4th-string quarterback. Flashed some arm strength early on. That moved him up to 3rd in the depth chart. Then injuries to Montel Cozart and DeAndre Ford, and he found himself as the guy early on in October.
They're one of 7 FBS teams starting 3 quarterbacks this season. All of them with losing records besides Louisville at 5-4.
Start this drive with a Keon Kinner run and driven down by Denzel Johnson, who's been one of the only sure things on this TCU defense this year.
Johnson does such a good job of tackling in space. Comes down and plays that safety position where sometimes he's down around the line of scrimmage, other times he's back in pass coverage, but either way, he is as sure a tackler as TCU has on defense.
2nd down and 7. Over the middle, a wide open man. It's Ben Johnson inside the 45. He was the offensive player of the game for Kansas last week against Texas because of his blocking. He's got a reception here.
Well, Oklahoma State utilized the tight ends up the seam versus TCU last week. Kansas clearly saw something in utilizing it early on.
Caraway drives down Kinner here for a 1st down loss. Chris Bradley was there as well. They lose 3, 2nd down.
Quan Kinner really should have been the player of the game last week for Kansas, at least offensively speaking. 13 carries for 67 yards, a couple catches for 40 yards, and this is one of his better outputs of the season for Kinner.
Kansas did a decent job of getting that ground game going last week. Here's another deep ball down the sideline and incomplete with the coverage from Corey O'Mealy. They looked for Bobby Hartzog, sophomore out of Houston, 3rd and 12. Willis 4 for 7 to begin. Kinner. We run it against a light box and get 6. 4th down.
Well, you're running on 3rd down. I think if you're anticipating going for it on 4th down, right? So you're trying to get it more in 4th and manageable. And this is where Kansas has struggled at times this year. Trying to take chances and not necessarily being able to come away and capitalizing on them.
Yeah, they're 6 for 20 on 4th down this year. That's dead last in the Big 12. 4th down and 7 for the Jayhawks. Play clock winding inside of 5. And they will use their first timeout.
Kansas.
We'll take the timeout with them. 7-0 TCU and a 4th down and 7 for David Beatty and company on the other side of this break. FS1 College Football is presented by K Jewelers. Is that a dinosaur?
It appears to be.
Eel? Kansas going forward on 4th down. And what do you have to lose at this point? They've trailed for a long time in a row. You've got to go back to the Memphis game to find the last time they led. That was week 2. It's 4th down and 7 out of this timeout. He's in a quick kick depth and a flag flies.
False start. Number 55 of the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 4th down.
Coming out of the timeout should almost never happen. You notice how deep Ryan Willis is back in the shotgun. That is clearly a quick kick formation.
More traditional depth on this snap and another false start.
It clearly seems to be a miscommunication between Ryan Willis and his center, Keon Hodder.
And number 73 of the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 4th down.
And this has been the case throughout the season for Kansas. Mistakes like this is what's caused their lack of production on offense, and they've been mixing in some different players as well. Number 77, Joe Gibson, he's mixed in at center, so that's going to be put on Larry Hughes at the right tackle position, but it shouldn't be, because that's really between the quarterback and center.
Turpin took one back for a touchdown the last time he touched it on a line drive punt from Wyman. This one much better hang time, sailing over his head and into the end zone. We've got 3 more games for you today, including Stanford and a tough one against Oregon. Next here on FS1 is K-State and Texas Tech up in Lubbock. And Utah goes on the road to Tucson at 10 Eastern on FS1. For that Oregon-Stanford game, the winner of that game each of the last 5 seasons has gone on to win the Pac-12.
Battle of 2 of the top running backs in the Pac-12. Royce Freeman for Oregon, the leading rusher, and Christian McCaffrey for Stanford. He's been outstanding this season.
Into the short side of the field goes Aaron Green. This is only the 4th offensive play of the day for TCU. They had a 3-and-out on their first possession. The lone points, if you're just joining us, coming off a Turpin punt return.
Clearly this Kansas defense smells blood. They're playing confident. They're taking some chances on both sides of the football right now.
You bring only 4. Boykin with a confident throw to Sean Nixon, who had a career best 9 catches for 146 yards last week.
Sean Nixon stepped up in the slot wide receiver. Even though he's more naturally a running back, I wouldn't be surprised to see TCU move him back into the backfield once Aaron Green graduates.
3rd down and a yard. Green again. Look at the shiftiness from Aaron Green for a 1st down. Fish Smithson, Ben Goodman combined on the tackle. Great individual effort from the senior.
And Trevon Boykin looks like he's moving a bit gingerly after the hit he took on their first drive of the game. Went down awkwardly onto the ground, bending back that right leg.
Straight drop, steps up, heaves it long into a soft spot, but over the head of Dotson, second down.
And how that affects their offense, well, he's a big part of the running game. A lot of these zone read schemes, Boykin's been extremely effective in keeping the football, getting yards, and even in the passing game, finding open holes.
Sorry, Brady, add this one to the list of records for Trey Boykin. Most attempts passing Andy Dalton. Second down and 10. Again, they work empty. And again, Kansas brings only 4. Perfectly thrown bubble to Sean Nixon, who's up to the 40 on a gain of 6. Tripped up by Tevin Shaw, Marnez Ogletree. Third down and 4 for the Horned Frogs.
The amount of production by quarterback Trevon Boykin over the course of his time here at TCU is absolutely remarkable. We just saw obviously a record for attempts, but you're talking about yards and touchdowns and really what he brings to this TCU offense. He's the fire starter. He's the guy who makes it go, and he's the guy who's carried this team all season long with all the injuries they've had to endure.
Kansas brings some pressure, picked up, so a chance to go for Listenby and a first down inside the 30. 31 yards to the track All-American for a TCU first down, and Boykin is hobbled.
Yeah, Trevon Boykin took a hit at the end of this play. I think it was from number 10. Ben Goodman coming off the top of the screen was able to get the ball out just in time. Again, clearly seems to be a bit maligned by whatever happened earlier in this game.
Green. Goodman with the tackle, but a good first down gain of 5 as we go back to that previous play.
As Goodman comes around the edge, tries to avoid contact, but still able to hit Boykin, putting him in an awkward position. And as a quarterback, when you don't expect a hit coming, a lot of times your body kind of gives out in the way you land, and it can make all those little hits feel that much worse.
They motion Hicks and get him the ball in a hurry, but it's off his fingertips and third down once again.
This is where the Kansas defense has really struggled this year, giving up almost a 50% conversion rate on third down, and a place where actually TCU has excelled, converting on a high percentage of their third downs. And again, in part because of Trevon Boykin's dual threat ability, their ability to not only run the football and for him to scramble, but how effective he is in the passing game.
Horned Frogs' second best third down team in the country. Hicks motions out to open up a window for Nixon, but the pass was off of the mark, and it's fourth down. Marquise Roberts in coverage on Nixon.
This throw is going to be just off the mark, and Trevon Boykin struggled early last week with some balls being off the mark, uncharacteristic for him. Been very effective, very accurate, in particular on some of the short passing game, getting the ball out of his hand quick. So a bit surprising, and you wonder if he's just not feeling well right now with a hit he sustained earlier in this game.
Jaden Oberchrome on for a 42-yarder. All the points coming off special teams so far for the Horned Frogs, and Oberchrome now within 3 makes of the Big 12 record for career makes, trailing Michael Honeycutt of Oklahoma. Trevon Boykin battling through some things this afternoon. All 10 points for the Horned Frogs coming off special teams so far. Punt return touchdown for Kavontae Turpin, and then a field goal, and Trevon Boykin has been hobbled so far in this first quarter. Huddled up with college football experts and live web chats all season long. New guest every week, the Edward Jones College Football Huddle on foxsports.com.
And clearly the injury to Boykin's going to change the whole dynamics of their offense. He's not going to be as much of a part of the running game. He's going to have to sit inside the pocket and make throws, and it's going to change the blocking scheme up front, because you're not going to be able to read that backside defensive end like they normally do in some of their zone read schemes.
Here comes Ryan Chandler, former track athlete at Wichita State, using some of that straight line speed to turn the corner and take it to the 35. There's a flag down back inside the 20. It seems like anytime Kansas gets something going, there's some laundry. That's a wet towel.
Holding during the return. Number 35 of the return team. Half the distance to the goal. First down.
Chris Button, I know you've got a pretty good look down there at Trevon Boykin.
Yeah, I've been watching him for the last couple of minutes, and he's definitely favoring that right ankle. Now, it was already taped coming into today, but you can tell he's wincing with some pain, trying to put pressure on it, but he is favoring it right now.
Okay.
And Boykin took a ton of hits last week versus Oklahoma State, but he's a tough quarterback. And that's what Gary Patterson really appreciates the most about him, is his ability to be able to make it through injuries and make it through a lot of the hits that he subjects himself to when running the football.
So instead of starting around the 35, Kansas back to its own 9 because of the penalty. Willis throwing the out for Trey Parmalee. Senior leader, though, was suspended for last week's game, did not travel to Texas.
And he's their most sure-handed wide receiver. Go back to their game last week versus Texas. There were a number of drop balls by Kansas wide receivers, and it's really where they missed Trey Parmalee, some of those easy and short completions.
59-20 loss to the Longhorns in a game that was pretty darn close during the first half. Keon Kinner with a big hole and bouncing into the clear. Kinner takes it into TCU territory on a 45-yard run.
We talked about the spark of Kinner last week, but look at the offensive line for Kansas. A body on a body, creating a hole up front. And Kinner is able to make a guy miss, and that's what he's been able to do, really, when you watch some of the biggest runs for Keon Kinner. Make a guy miss in the hole and explode for a big game.
Starting to get healthier. You can tell. From the 41, straight ahead, Taylor Cox puts his nose down and gets 3. Started to get that ground game going some against Texas. Averaged 4 yards a carry, which doesn't seem like much until you have the context of the previous 2 games when the Jayhawks averaged 1 yard per carry. On 2nd and 7, Cox again, a hole again, sticks his shoulder down and rumbles for a first down inside the 30. Jayhawks playing some inspired football right now. Pick up a 10 and a first down.
9 different starters have been on the offensive line for Kansas this season, but they've seemed to have found a group that's been able to make some holes now for the running game in the past 2 weeks.
The 28-yard line, first down and 10. Bad snap, still was pulled down by Willis. Kinner with a second effort, runs for 5. And it's second down. You know, in conference play, this has been the worst running team in the country, averaging just over 2 yards per carry in conference games, but impressive on this drive.
And that makes the job for a freshman quarterback all that much harder when you don't have a running game and a way to really balance out some of your offense.
Gave him 4 on first down, 2nd and 6. Willis floating, sideline and incomplete for Shaquem Barbell.
Kansas so far not scared to throw the football downfield versus TCU. And usually Ryan Willis has done a nice job this season of giving his wide receivers opportunities to catch the football. And today he's been overthrown on many of the wide receivers, or many of the shots that they've taken downfield.
Yeah, it's been the ground game that's gotten it done on this drive. 3rd down and 6. Horned Frogs showing some pressure. They bring 4. Willis back shoulder. Incomplete. How is there no flag? It looked like Deshaun Raymond throwing Bobby Hartzog out of bounds.
There's going to be a lot of contact between these two. I mean, you'd have to think there's a flag there.
And you heard Coach Beatty running down the sideline shouting exactly what we're saying.
And usually you get a little bit of leeway off the ball, in particular when it's 3rd down, it's press coverage, but that was too far down the field, and even more than that, the ball was already out of Ryan Willis's hands, approaching Hartzog. Raymond's at some point got to let go of the wide receiver.
Matthew Wyman just 1 for 3 this year. Hits this one well. And good. So Kansas able to get some points off of this possession. And something to feel good about. Really nice drive that started back inside their own 15 because of the holding penalty on the kickoff return. Every point in this game has been scored on special teams. TCU's offense back at it on the other side of this break. We don't want to blow it up into something more than it is, but it's a 7-point game right now, and David Beatty's got to be happy about what his team's done. Yeah, I mean, we talked about all the points being scored by special teams, and you would have thought TCU's potent offense would be the one putting up points right now, but so far their defense is toe the line. And the number 2 offense in the country by most statistical categories will get it again here. Wyman feeling pretty confident after that made field goal. Belts one out of the end zone. Time now for a Lowe's game break. Hello to Jenny Taft.
Hey, Joe, thanks. Texas coming off a big win over Kansas last week and hoping to carry that momentum against West Virginia. On the previous possession, Deontay Foreman had a fumble returned for a touchdown. He was not going to lose this one. 65 yards for the touchdown. The Longhorns lead 10-7 in the first quarter. Joe, Brady, back to you guys.
And Foreman has really emerged as their big home run hitter at the running back position, as opposed to the other running back, Jonathan Gray, who's done a nice job as well, but I don't think has the overall speed of Foreman for Texas. A roller coaster ride that's been for the Longhorns this year. They came in here and got waxed. Stretch play. Aaron Green slips through the initial penetration and turns a loss into an impressive gain of 6. Senior out of San Antonio, on pace to be TCU's first 1,000-yard rusher in 5 years. Quickly back on it, back to Green. 3rd down and 4 coming up. And I really felt like last week versus Oklahoma State, TCU did not give Aaron Green the ball enough early in the game. They took too many shots downfield, had some miscues. And then they got behind, and they couldn't afford to run the football because they needed to come back from such a deficit. Now 3rd down, they go out of an empty set. 9 men stand for Kansas, make that 10. They bring only 4. Boykin, short side, has a completion and a 1st down to Green. Only his 10th catch of the season, but it moves the chains to the 36. And this is what the Kansas defense is going to force Trevon Boykin to do all day long. Short passes, make him go the long, hard way to get the ball down the field to get points. Oklahoma State did that last week, and they were very successful doing that strategy. Kansas is going to try to implement it today. Fake to Austin. Out the back door goes Green. But Damani Mosby was waiting for him and no gain. 2nd down and 10. You were there last year, Brady, in Lawrence when Kansas had success doing similar things. Yeah, and some people kind of put it on the weather because it was snowing in that particular game, but here's Boykin trying to get outside and limping his way to the sideline. Yeah, and I don't know if it was necessarily how cold it was or the weather in particular. I just think for whatever reason that day, TCU did not come out to play right away in the game. Kansas hung around, was able to build momentum, and that could be a very similar case here today. If TCU keeps allowing Kansas to hang around, all of a sudden this Kansas Jayhawks team is inspired and hungry. I mean, look, they haven't won a game this season. You better believe they're going to pull out all the stops to try to make that happen. You saw Clint Bowen there. He was the interim head coach during that 34-30 game. 3rd down and 9. 8 drop into coverage. 3 get pressure and sack Boykin back at the 33. It's Mosby again, and the punt team comes out for the Frogs. And Boykin is in a ton of pain right now. Yeah, and clearly that's going to hurt the element of the game where he can affect it as much as he does. Being able to get outside the pocket and utilize his legs, in particular on a down like 3rd down. Kansas drops 8 guys in the coverage, nowhere to go with the football. I don't care who you are, you're not going to be able to block forever. They had issues on punt return last week with Parmalee suspended. He's back to return this one. Retreating at the 10. Trying to get outside. Now cut it back. Trey Parmalee splitting some of the coverage and returning it to the 30. Kansas with the momentum right now as this first quarter winds to a close. Not many times will you find a team down by a touchdown and feeling as good about themselves as the Jayhawks do right now. They sack Boykin. 10-3 as we go to the second. Kansas looking for its first road win
since 2009. A season that has been largely defined by the injuries at TCU. This is the lowest point, you'd have to think. 1 week after their undefeated season comes to an end, Javon Boykin limps his way off of the field back into the locker room.
And this is the injury that TCU cannot afford to have. An injury to Boykin really puts the rest of the season and a Big 12 championship in jeopardy.
Ryan Willis, meanwhile, the freshman quarterback for Kansas, back at it. Look to throw the slant, instead outside Parmalee with a nice first down gain of 6. So you've got Boykin, the senior, heading to the locker room. Things looking down for TCU. Couldn't be more different for Kansas, feeling optimistic right now with their freshman quarterback in a 7-point deficit.
And they've got to like their chances now. And who knows what Bram Kohlhausen will do if indeed he is going to be the quarterback coming in the next series.
Willis, by the way, is now thrown for more yards than any freshman quarterback in KU history. 2nd down and 4. Here comes Kinner hitting the hole hard, moving the chains for Kansas. Nick Orr with a tackle after a gain of 5. Kinner now with 58 yards on the day, and Willis out of Bishop Miege High School, where he won a state championship last year.
Yeah, beating Mario Kinsey, quarterback at Kansas, for the freshman single-season passing record.
That one's knocked down. Terrell Lathan got his hand on it. 2nd and 10.
Well, if you can't get to the quarterback, one of the things you're taught as a defensive lineman is to get your hands up. Try to knock the football down, get in those passing lanes, make it difficult for the quarterback to be able to see downfield.
Flag flies, and Lathan got there to Willis after the whistle, but held up. And we'll get our call from Eddie Shelton.
Illegal snap. Number 70 of the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
We talked about some of the issues they had with false starts earlier in this game, and being on the center, there's just another example. Keon Houghton again.
14-17 on the game clock.
This is something that head coach Dave Beatty preaches, being one of the smartest football teams, and you've got to be that when you're so young. But lately they've been battling some of the penalties and some of those unfortunate decisions before the snap even starts.
Yeah, what were a couple of the things he said when you're undermanned like they are, they've got to do? They've got to win special teams. They've got to be the least penalized team. They gave up a touchdown on special teams, and they're dealing with these penalties.
And he says control the controllables.
Yeah.
And clearly a false starter in that particular case, illegal snap on Keon Houghton, is one of the things that you can control.
10-3 game, opening minute of the 2nd quarter. 32nd meeting between TCU and KU. Willis, a strong arm. Oh my goodness. Fitted in somehow to Booker, and a 1st down on a gain of 19. Look what I found.
When Ryan Willis let this go, Joe, I thought for sure Denzel Johnson was going to be able to pick this football off. Look at him leap up, and you can't get quite high enough, and Booker there for the big gain.
Into TCU territory. Willis steps up over the middle. Steven Sims with a 1st down. Sims already with his 4th reception. This is a gain of 11.
The freshman out of Houston, Texas. He is so good at starting and stopping and leaving defensive backs behind. True freshman. He's one to look out for in the future for this Kansas football team.
Back to the ground with Kinner. Josh Caraway grabbed a hold of him this time, and a short gain. It will be 2nd down and 9.
We talked about all the injuries for TCU this year, really on both sides of the football, but one constant has really been, to me, their defensive line play. When you're talking about guys like Mike Tua'ua, Aaron Curry, Davion Pearson, who was banged up a bit, has recently come back in and played, Josh Caraway. I mean, we've got a bunch of guys that are interchangeable, and they've all rotated in and done a nice job this season.
outside they go. Nice move made by Bobby Hartzog. He's close to another first down. Montrell Wilson with the tackle. They spot it right at the stick.
Hartzog, another player out of the Houston, Texas area. Dave Beatty does a tremendous job recruiting that area. He's very familiar with it. There's a ton of talent in that particular part of the state.
Spot him just short. You saw a moment ago the total yard difference right now. Kansas is outgaining TCU 166 to 69. 3rd and inches for the Jayhawks. And a timeout for measurement. They're bringing the chains out. Yellow line says he's short, but that is unofficial.
You know, it's funny watching head coach Dave Beatty on the sidelines. He actually sprinted down to get almost a direct view from right where the marker was, just to check and see how close it was. And you know, look at him looking at it. So they're going, you probably should measure this.
It was spotted perfectly. Yellow line was perfect. And it's 3rd and inches for David Beatty and this Kansas offense. Kansas 0 for 4 on 3rd down so far today, facing the best 3rd down defense in the Big 12.
And big number 44. Michael Zuniga is in at fullback. Clearly, this is the guy they bring in for some of these short yardage situations. But they're in the backfield.
It's Cox. And he's got a Kansas first down. Drive continues with a first down at the TCU 20.
It looks like there's a bit of penetration by Davion Pearson. Cox wisely makes the cut, is able to get outside and upfield for the first down. That's something that these running backs for Kansas have had to do a good job of all season long, having vision and being able to adjust sometimes even in the backfield their course as they try to get upfield.
Kinner with a nice hold off the right side into the arms of Terrell Lathan. They give him 3. 2nd down coming up. National JUCO Player of the Year last year was Kinner.
And part of that hole was made by another true freshman for this Kansas offense, Larry Hughes, standing at 6'7", 280 pounds. Still got a ton of room to put some more weight on.
Fake to Kinner, one-on-one. Hartzog in the end zone. Can't pull it in, but a flag flies. It'll be 1st and goal. Is Nick Orr going to get called for the pass interference?
And Orr's really been their best cornerback with all the injuries they've sustained this season. Just another example, though. This Kansas team not scared, taking shots and opportunities downfield, stressing the cornerbacks for TCU.
Pass interference. Defense, number 18. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
And I don't even know if I like that call. I thought Nick Orr did a nice job of trying to turn around, locate the football.
He's holding on
the jersey, but look, there was contact going on the entire way. You almost feel like maybe that's a makeup call for one they missed earlier in the game that clearly looked like pass interference. That one didn't look quite as bad. I understand he's holding his jersey, but the other one on the sideline, I mean, he was all over.
That was more of an interference than this one.
That was Deshaun Raymond on that particular play, but we'll see if Kansas can now capitalize. You got to wonder at some point, too, will TCU start bringing some pressure and heating it up?
They bring Zuniga back in to lead the way for Cox. Taylor Cox with a 2nd effort is in for the Kansas touchdown. And an extra point away from tying the game against the 15th ranked Frogs.
Where number 20, Montrell Wilson's going to have an opportunity to tackle Taylor Cox in the hole. But look at the drive from Taylor Cox. The low man wins, and in that particular case, Cox was able to find a way in the end zone. We're working our way towards a tie ball game.
Matthew Wyman on for the extra point as Cox gets his second touchdown of the season. And they are going to take a look at this. Should be confirmed.
His knee comes close right there, but Cox able to maintain that supine body position, stay off the ground, and
good word.
Thank you. Across the plane. And who saw this coming?
Not me.
I mean, the Kansas offense right now outperforming the TCU offense. Seems like they found some holes in the TCU defense and some of the things Oklahoma State was able to take advantage of last week. Trevon Boykin looks like he might not be playing the rest of today. Bram Kohlhausen most likely coming in at quarterback.
See David Beatty here, Brady, talking to Keon Houghton, the center that's had some issues.
After further review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. Touchdown.
Outside of Houghton's snap issues, just about everything else is going Kansas's way.
Yeah, they could complete some more of these deep shots, or at least have an opportunity to be a little bit more competitive. Willis has overthrown a couple, but really beyond that, yeah, the penalties and a couple overthrows. I mean, Kansas State could almost make the case they've dominated, at least from an offensive standpoint.
Lyman drilled that long field goal earlier. Drills this extra point to tie the game. Well, Kansas and Baylor were tied in the first quarter back in early October. They were tied with Memphis early on in the season, but here they're tied with number 15 after the Cox touchdown. Dejection from the Horned Frogs in a tie game. FS1 College Football is presented by Cade Jewelers. Impressive touchdown drive by Kansas to knot the issue at 10. Taylor Cox capping it off with his second touchdown of the season. How about the total yards? 174 to 69 in favor of the Jayhawks.
It's unbelievable. I mean, none of us thought this coming into the game, and so far Kansas has been outstanding. They're almost, actually they're past the halfway point of their average total yards per game this season.
TCU, meanwhile, statistically the second most prolific offense in college football history. All 10 points have come from special teams. Only touchdown came from this guy, Kavontae Turpin, shy of the 25. And in case you just joined us, Trevon Boykin left the game with an injury. There was this hit early on, rolling over that ankle. Chris Button reported the ankle was already taped coming into the game. It was sacked on the last TCU play, left for the locker room, and so we get Bram Kohlhausen coming into the game for the Horned Frogs. How does this change it?
It changes a lot of things offensively speaking. I mean, you don't have that dynamic ability now at the quarterback position to be able to hurt teams with your legs once you get outside the pocket and really in some of the zone read schemes. And that doesn't mean Bram Kohlhausen can't run it, but he's just not going to be quite as effective as Trevon Boykin. And you're talking about a guy who has much less experience in this offense.
He's thrown 13 passes this year, completed 9 of them. They go to Turpin on a jet sweep. Don't let this cat get free. Spinning to the 30. Picks up 7 on first down. Roberts and Smithson combined on the tackle. 2nd and 3.
And really, it's going to have to be Turpin and Nixon, Aaron Green, Kyle Hicks. Guys like that are going to have to pick up the slack in the running game in particular. Now with Bram Kohlhausen in.
They empty it out on 2nd down. 4-man rush, picked up. Kohlhausen throws low for Nixon, and it's 3rd down.
And that's the hardest part for a quarterback who comes in off the bench as a backup, is trying to find that rhythm, trying to find that confidence. You obviously warm up, you feel good going in the game, but then you can kind of get cold, and all of a sudden to jump in like that, a lot of nerves going on, a lot of anxious thought. You really would just want to get that first completion out of the way and get some of that confidence going.
Kansas trying to force its second 3 and out of the game. Hicks motions out. Kohlhausen says come back and go the other way. Kohlhausen has a window to take off for a TCU first down.
And that's what he's going to be forced to do today. The game plan for Kansas will not change. They're going to rush 4, rush 3 at times, drop everyone else into coverage, and make Kohlhausen have to run up and get first downs with his legs.
Nixon keeps the legs turning. They mark him down at the 42. He's been involved heavily again after his best career game last week. Green. First down, TCU. And a good response so far by the Horned Frogs.
Green's so patient with his running style. A lot of times he presses the hole to the outside, allows his blocking to get it set up in front of him, is able to find a seam once the offensive line sets itself on their defenders.
22 yards for Aaron Green so far. First down from the 48. They bring an extra man this time. Picked up, Listenby, underthrown and incomplete. Coverage from Marnez Ogletree. Then Fish-Smithson came flying over to try and undercut it. 2nd and 10.
Well, Colby Listenby was isolated one-on-one with Marnez Ogletree. Bram Kohlhausen saw it, wanted to take advantage of the speed of Listenby. As Fish-Smithson read that the entire way, but he was coming all the way from the middle of the field. You know, Listenby's a guy who they used to incorporate more in the offense early on in games last year. So far this year, been banged up. It's kind of gone off to a slow start, but they're trying to get him back into the fray.
2nd and 10. Back to the ground. Green with a gaping hole. And 9. Smithson, number 2 in the country in solo tackles, gets another. 3rd down and 1.5 yards.
And the Kansas defense has really relied on him to come up and make a lot of plays, in particular when opposing running backs get into to that second level. Talk about how many solo tackles he has. He's one of the better tacklers in the country, being able to take guys down one-on-one in space.
The box is loaded up. See where they go to. Looking outside. Turpin, first down. Bazzie Bates came up to make the tackle, but it's enough for a TCU first down.
Well, this is just stealing. Look how much room there is between these two players. Bazzie Bates nearly 12 yards off. Why not? That's way too much cushion for a guy like Cavante Turpin, who's already taken back a punt for a touchdown in this game.
Kohlhausen flushed out of the pocket. Tucks it and gets 4. Maybe 5. They spot him at the 35-yard line. Kohlhausen showing a pretty good ability to move around on his first possession.
Yeah, I think Gary Patterson and really the offensive coach, Doug Meacham, Sonny Cumbie, the co-coordinators, they've got to be pleased with what Kohlhausen's doing right now, making good decisions, not forcing anything, and utilizing his legs when it's there.
Doug Meacham, we talked to this week. One of the co-offensive coordinators was Sonny Cumbie. Under pressure, Kohlhausen gets hit by Goodman. Ben Goodman, most experienced player on this painfully young Kansas roster, has the sack, and it's 3rd down.
Yeah, 33 consecutive starts, and one thing that he realizes with all that experience is effort, continuing to get after the quarterback, not giving up on plays. That's what made that sack possible.
And another player down, Jamel Naff, starting left guard. The injured player for TCU. Back in a moment. Midway through the 2nd quarter, tied at 10. Kansas 0-9 this season. TCU 8-1, but tied up. Jamel Naff, the latest injured Horned Frog, with that right leg rolled up on by Kohlhausen.
You see on the right side of your screen, that's Naff as Kohlhausen gets thrown into his right leg, and Desir trying to throw Naff down. It's just unbelievable how many injuries this TCU team has had to deal with this season, really on both sides of the ball. and they're just starting to get healthy again, too. Halapuli, Vaitai, their left tackle, they were expecting him to come back next week. Ty Slanina, slot wide receiver, next week. Emmanuel Porter, #1, who's playing today after missing some time.
You mentioned Porter. He split out to the top of the screen for this 3rd down and 8 play. They've converted both 3rd down attempts on this drive. And on 3rd and 8, Kohlhausen throwing into traffic and picked and dropped. Ogletree had it in his hands. Came out as he hit the ground, but it's 4th down.
Well, this is going to be a 3-man route concept. And they're going to try to fit the ball into Turpin in behind. But the Kansas defense was waiting for this all day long. Ogletree almost comes down with the interception, if not for maybe Turpin getting a hand in on the football.
Roberts is saying, you were headed the other way, man.
They've seen this before. This was something that happened last year in the matchup versus Kansas in Lawrence.
Ethan Perry puts the nose down, end over end. Fair catch at the 11 by Trey Parmalee. Jayhawks feeling good, tied at 10 against the number 15 team in the country. Looking for their first lead since September 12th. S1 College Football is presented by K Jewelers and them TCU boys performing during the break.
Really trying to get this crowd up. We got a tie ball game with 7:33 left in the 2nd quarter.
Song is called Give 'Em Hell. They haven't given him much. Trevon Boykin is back on the sideline after heading to the locker room with an apparent leg injury. We're tied at 10 and Kansas has it at its own 12-yard line. Keon Kenner hit in the backfield and dropped. Penetration from Aaron Curry, and it's 2nd down.
It seems like every time TCU's needed someone to make a play on defense, it's been someone from the defensive line that's stepped up. This group is the most experienced, probably the strongest unit on the field for TCU, and they do a tremendous job of helping to swing momentum.
Bringing pressure on 2nd down. Willis taking a one-on-one shot. Sims has it. Steven Sims up to the 49. A 40-yard completion and a great adjustment.
Well, TCU took a gamble. This is going to be an all-out blitz. Look at all the bodies around the line of scrimmage testing the true freshman Ryan Willis. But he's able to connect to the other true freshman, Steven Sims. Big play for Kansas.
Oh, and as soon as they get momentum again, it's shot by issues with the snap. Everybody was moving except Keon Houghton.
False start. Number 55 of the offense. 5-yard penalty. 1st down.
Well, this is why Kansas is an 0-9 team at this point in time. Clearly, they can't seem to get any consistency and really momentum, even when they do have big plays.
Couple of big plays today and a long run from Keon Kenner. Now the long completion to Steven Sims after the penalty. 1st and 15. Fake it to Kenner. Outside to Booker. They get 7. Corey O'Mealy with the tackle on yet another true freshman out of College Station.
And this is why there's so much hope and optimism for Kansas, as a lot of these true freshmen have been stepping up and making plays and giving you flashes of what they're capable of. It's just a matter of eliminating some of the mistakes, some of the drops, penalties, and doing it on a more consistent basis.
Willis 135 through the air. Straight up the gut with Kenner sticking his nose down. Mike Tua'ua and Aaron Curry combined in the tackle and make it 3rd down and 8. Talking about those Kansas freshmen, why the future is bright. This is a quarterback and wide receiver. You mentioned it all across the offensive line, youth as well.
And Emmanuel Moore from the Fort Worth area to get a little extra playing time because he's playing in front of some hometown family and friends.
Willis steps up and goes down. Sacked by Aaron Curry.
We talked about this a moment ago. Whenever TCU's needed a big play, they've relied on their defensive line to make it happen for them, creating pressure on opposing quarterbacks. One of the biggest keys is these guys do not give up on plays. Even if they rush up past the quarterback, they do a good job of climbing back down to be able to get a body on him.
Wyman out there to punt it. Line drive punt. Turpin fumbles it and recovers it going down inside the 5. So poor field position for the Horned Frogs to begin this drive, finding themselves in a battle with Kansas.
Talking about a quarterback carousel there at Ohio State. JT Barrett back at starting quarterback this week versus Illinois after serving a 1-game suspension after he got popped for, I guess, an OVI there in Columbus, Ohio during their bye week.
Speaking of having to go to different quarterbacks, Bram Kohlhausen on for his second possession. And a hole breaks, but a flag flies, and this is coming back likely, as Kyle Hicks takes it across the 25, and it is on TCU, judging by the Kansas reaction.
Holding. Number 72 of the offense. Half the distance to the goal. Replay first down.
Well, this is going to be on the left guard, number 72, Bobby Thompson, playing for the injured Jamel Naff. You wonder why that hole was so big. Well, there it is. Clearly holding on to DJ Williams' shoulder pads, not allowing him to get a hand.
Thompson leaves the game. They bring Patrick Morris in. Again, having to rotate a left guard because Jamel Naff is out with an injury. Backed inside their own 5-yard line. First down and 12. They fake on the ground and throw it incomplete. As we go down to Chris Button.
Well, you mentioned Trevon Boykin down on the sidelines. I talked to TCU. They don't reveal much injury information. They would say that it's an ankle injury, but his return is to be determined. He's not wearing any extra protective gear on that ankle. I'll try and get more from Patterson at halftime.
All right, Chris. Second down and 12 now. Still working out of their own end zone. Kohlhausen outside, wide open man. First down. It's Colby Listenby getting decked by Marquise Roberts, but getting TCU the breathing room they need with a gain of 18.
And he's the guy they're going to have to work to if Josh Dotson's not going to play. Dotson clearly their best wide receiver, but Listenby was the other guy who had a sensational year just a year ago.
Turpin gets 7.
But you go back to Trevon Boykin standing on the sidelines. It's hard once you suffer an injury and you come out. You don't have that same adrenaline rush. And
now he breaks free to the outside. Kyle Hicks up to midfield. 22 yards before Stewart ushers him out. Another first down, TCU.
Well, TCU clearly ramping up the speed of the offense, putting pressure on Kansas, in particular up front on their defensive line, where Kansas doesn't have a ton of depth. But you know, we talked about it. TCU is going to have to rely on the running game, and in particular Aaron Green, Kyle Hicks, some of the likes to take some of the pressure off of Bram Kohlhausen.
Here's Travoris Johnson, his first carry, loses a yard.
Going back to the point about Boykin, though, but the longer you're out of the game, the less you get that adrenaline rush and the ability to really fight through the injury. Some of that pain starts to set in, especially when you start standing around. You're not able to move around quite as much and avoid maybe some of those thoughts going to how bad that ankle hurts.
I think coming into the game, had somebody told TCU that Trevon Boykin would get banged up, they would have said, okay, we'll survive. He'll sit out, no problem. But the context a little different than we thought it'd be.
Very much so.
Tied at 10. Inside of 3 minutes left in this first half, and against a 4-man rush, Kohlhausen steps up and dumps it off in the nick of time for an Aaron Green first down. Picks up 14. Ogletree and Deneen credit for the stop.
And Kohlhausen, a senior, and clearly playing very wise so far. Taking what the Kansas defense is giving him, not forcing anything downfield, and then stepping up into the pocket. Something that's hard to do, again, when you come off the bench. And that's really just him finding a rhythm and finding a flow in the course of the game.
Senior who's at his third different college, started at Houston, then played a couple of years at JUCO ball, battled through a broken collarbone early on in his JUCO career. And here he is in a dogfight against Kansas. From the 35, Aaron Green, big hole, and another first down. TCU starting to look like TCU on this drive.
Well, they moved the right tackle, Joseph Noteboom, over to left tackle for the injured Vaitai. And in his place, they put in Matt Pryor, and he is huge, and right now creating huge holes.
Green with a couple to the 20. Demonte Mosby with his 5th stop of this first half, and we wind inside 2 minutes.
This is the momentum that TCU would like to create, try to get some points here on this particular drive, because they're going to get the ball coming out of halftime since they deferred at the coin toss.
Hicks inside the 20. He gets 6. Jackie Desir with a stop. 3rd down and about 2. And the Horned Frogs hustling up with 1.5 minutes. Hicks again, shut down this time. Tevin Shaw the stop. It's 4th and 1. What do you do?
Well, look, if you're a conservative coach, you're playing with your backup quarterback, you kick a field goal. But at this point, I think they've got a nice drive going. You go ahead and you put it on Aaron Green. You put it on one of your running backs to be able to get you about 1 yard or 1.5 yards to get the first down.
Yeah, if you're one of the most prolific offenses in college football history, facing the worst defense in the country, you go on 4th and 1. It's going to be close. I'm not sure that he got it. Marquise Roberts in there to stop him. And the spot, it appears, is well short. Kansas, I mean, by this look, has stopped TCU on downs. It looks from here like it's 1 yard short, but they're going to measure.
Well, when you don't have a dual threat quarterback in like Trevon Boykin, the defense doesn't have to use an extra defender to account for the quarterback, which frees up an extra guy to be able to get into the backfield and get a stop. That's what you're seeing from the Kansas defense. They're loading up the box in these short yardage situations because they're not as worried about Bram Kohlhausen keeping the football and hurting them.
I'm surprised they even measured. It's a full yard short. And David Beatty's squad comes up with a stop on downs. That's only the 2nd time this year that Kansas defense has gotten off of the field in 9 4th down attempts from opposing offenses.
Well, the real question now becomes, does the Kansas offense want to take a chance, try to put together a bit of a drive here? Or do they feel happy and satisfied with being at 10-10 and take it into halftime?
We'll see with the 2 timeouts. You run it with Cox. Shut down by Davion Pearson. That clock runs. It appears they will, well, so this timeout from Gary Patterson.
Timeout.
It is.
TCU. First charge timeout in the half.
So Gary Patterson uses his first timeout. Going to try and get the ball back to the offense. One more go at it before the break. Wow, we've got a second with this timeout. Let's take a look at our Nissan Heisman watch.
Yeah, clearly all 5 of these players have their team in position to make the college football playoff, and typically the Heisman goes to the player who's at least having a chance to play for the national championship or has in recent years. To me, it's down to a 2-horse race. It's Derrick Henry and Deshaun Watson. Those 2 players have really carried their respective teams throughout the course of the year. Corey Coleman's been sensational, regardless of who's been at quarterback for Baylor. Ezekiel Elliott, same thing. He's really carried the load for Ohio State, whether it's been Cardell Jones or J.T. Barrett. And Christian McCaffrey, he's the do-it-all guy out there at Stanford, whether that's in the running game, catching the ball, even throwing passes at times, and also in special teams.
Trevon Boykin play himself out last week.
You could make that case. Look, he's been sensational throughout his career, but clearly struggled last week, and that's going to hurt his chances.
Those 4 interceptions, which was a career high. Kinner has stopped, and another timeout for TCU brings us to a quick break. We'll be back in 30 seconds. FS1 College Football is presented by K Jewelers, and on a day where it seems like TCU needs somebody to step up and take control of a game that's much closer than it should be, it's Gary Patterson using those timeouts trying to get it back.
Yeah, clearly he wants to give his offense one more chance with probably pretty good field position to maybe take a shot at the end zone and get ahead.
Still one timeout. 3rd down and 8 for Kansas. They'll force them to use that final timeout as Kinner gets cut down crossing the 15-yard line. There is the final TCU timeout. Remember, the only touchdown
TCU
scored in this game by TCU so far is on a punt return by Cavante Turpin.
Yeah, and punter Matthew Wyman for Kansas has been punting line drives, which is never something you want to do. It doesn't allow your coverage team to be able to get down in time to tackle whoever the return man is, or Turpin in this case. So I wonder if he's thinking that eventually Turpin might be able to hit another one if Wyman keeps sending these line drive shots at Turpin.
That last punt that he took back for a touchdown, hang time is 2.7 seconds. Not going to give your coverage team a whole lot of time to cover it. Coming up, State Farm halftime. Rob Stone and the guys back in Los Angeles to take you through the day's action. Turpin goes back there. Took it back 49 yards for a score. When you include his offensive touches and his kick returns, he averages more than 16 yards per touch. It's #1 in the country among freshmen.
Caught 4 TD passes against Texas earlier this year. It's been absolutely sensational when he gets the ball in his hands in open space.
See if Wyman can get him some better hang time to cover it. It's 2.7 on the touchdown. This one much better, and Turpin won't even get his hands on it as it bounces its way down to the 32. It looked like that was tossed back there and should be spotted to 32, but 2-yard difference. Graham Kohlhausen, 15 seconds, no timeouts.
Well, it's going to be tough, but the clock stops after a first down, so I think if you're TCU and you want to take a shot, well, throw the ball somewhere in the middle of the field where I think Kansas would invite you to throw the football and not allow you to get out of bounds. The clock should stop. You should hopefully have enough time to run up and spike the football, stop the clock, and give yourself maybe a second or two to have one last shot towards the end zone.
She's got a strong arm. Kansas puts 3 safeties back about 30 yards, and they run it with Aaron Green. And he runs out of bounds across the 40. 5 seconds ran off. First down, 10 seconds remaining in the half.
Yes, we might be able to see how strong Graham Kohlhausen's arm is right here.
Yeah.
See if they take a shot towards the end zone, run the football again.
They do run it again. You surprised they didn't do maybe a speed out and then one heave-ho?
Yeah, I mean, why do you utilize the timeouts to get the football back if you're not going to take a shot? Maybe because you're worried or concerned about your backup quarterback making mistakes. Mistake, maybe, but there's not a whole lot of time left for Kansas to come back and do anything. So
the Jayhawks about as gleeful of a team going into a locker room with a tie game as you're going to find. And Chris Button's with their head coach, David Beatty.
Coach, this is unfamiliar territory. You guys have trailed every game at half. You're now tied with the number 15 team in the nation. So what do you tell your guys at half?
Hey, man, same thing we told them before we came out. Hey, expect to be there and don't be surprised when you are. You know, we're playing with confidence right now. I think our defense is playing against a really high-profile offense, doing a nice job, and keeping the ball away from them is key. We got to continue to do that.
You talk about that high-profile offense. How much have you seen their game plan change without Boykin in there?
Well, obviously it's a little different. You got a Heisman guy when he goes out, so I hope the kid's all right. I really do. But this kid's capable too, man. He does a good job. I know their offensive coordinator. He's as smart as there is out there. So we're going to have to be able to stop him in the second half.
Appreciate it. Good luck in the second half. Joe?
David Beatty told us, Chris, you're going to have a hard time getting me out of this place because I love it here. Talking about Kansas, you're going to have a hard time telling Gary Patterson it's okay right now. Tied at 10. Going to the break against winless Kansas. We go to Rob Stone in Los Angeles. FS1 College Football is presented by K Jewelers. Welcome back to Fort Worth in a 10-10 game between winless Kansas and the number 15 team in the country, TCU. We welcome you back inside, getting you ready for this second half. Joe Davis with Brady Quinn. It's been a year filled with injuries for TCU, but none bigger than what we saw in that first half, Trevon Boykin going down.
Yeah, clearly this is a team that really needs their quarterback, in particular with what they ask him to do. Running outside the pocket, goes down awkwardly, seems to hurt, looks like his ankle, then suffering a sack later on in the game. That would be the last we saw of Trevon Boykin, but credit the Kansas defense. They played outstanding in the secondary, covering down, not allowing much room for the TCU wide receivers, and really being opportunistic, making plays when they've needed it, in particular on fourth down with a couple big stops in the running game. Dave Beatty, this is familiar unfamiliar territory for not only the Kansas players, but even the Kansas coaching staff as well. It's the first time they've been tied at half. And now as you go in at halftime, you've got to come out and make some adjustments, because you better believe Gary Patterson, Doug Meacham, Sonny Cumbie, the coaches for TCU, they're in there trying to figure out what they need to do to come away with a win.
Jayhawks, you saw there, outgaining TCU by 10 yards. TCU won the opening coin toss, deferred to the second half, so they've got it to begin. And it bounces into the end zone. TCU starts at the 25, and we start our half by talking to Chris Budd.
Yeah, I talked to Gary Patterson, and he confirmed with me that Trevon Boykin will not return this second half as he is dealing with that ankle injury. Also, some other injury news. Long snapper Matt Boggs has a broken leg. So I asked Patterson, what'd you tell your guys when you held them on the field? He said he didn't get after him too much, but he told him, we've been in this position with injuries this year. We have to come back this second half. I asked him, without Boykin, what adjustments do you have to make? And he said, we've had some guys open. They just have to get back to running the football, Joe.
Yeah, clearly the running game is going to be a big part of the plan if they want to force Kansas to put one of those guys that they're utilizing coverage down in the box to stop the run. Get some more one-on-one coverage on the outside.
They go to Sean Nixon on the first play of the second half, and Nixon with a short gain. Bram Kohlhausen is in there at quarterback, replacing Boykin. Kohlhausen, a senior out of Houston, Texas, who came into the game having thrown just 13 passes all year. TCU without an offensive touchdown in the first half for the first time in 2 years. Their lone score came on a punt return from Cavante Turpin. Kyle Hicks stopped after a gain of 2, and right away TCU stares at a 3rd and 7.
And this is the territory Kansas would like to stay within. Force TCU to convert those 3rd and 7 pluses. Put the pressure on the shoulders of Bram Kohlhausen at quarterback.
Jayhawks drop 7. Kohlhausen scanning the field. Goes underneath. Kyle Hicks breaks a tackle for a first down. They had a shot to bring him down short, but couldn't do it. And he got a first down and a gain of 15.
Kohlhausen wisely pervades the field, can't find anyone, then comes down to Kyle Hicks, who makes Brandon Stewart miss an open space, and therein lies the first down.
Sean Nixon gets 7, tackled by Joe Deneen.
You know, when Doug Meacham talks about, or Gary Patterson in this particular case, talks about running the football, that's how co-offensive coordinators Sonny Cumbie and Doug Meacham really look at those wide receiver screens and quick passes to the outside. They look at that like a running game, like anything else. Short, quick completions, get it to those guys in space, and let them run with the football.
They bring Aaron Green in at running back. Kohlhausen making a change at the line of scrimmage on 2nd down and 1. It is Green, and it is a first down. Ben Goodman with the team-leading 6th tackle today. First down at the Kansas 45, and the Frogs on the move to begin this second half.
We talked about Kansas going in at halftime with a tie ball game. Unfamiliar territory. Well, now they've got to make adjustments, and that means at some point they've got to start taking chances, both on defense and on offense, and really mixing some things up. They can't keep doing the same thing and not expect TCU to come back.
Still bring only 4. Kohlhausen running out of time. Moved off his spot, steps into pressure, and finds Josh Dotson for his first catch of the day. And a TCU first down and a pickup of a dozen.
Josh Dotson, the leading wide receiver for TCU. He's the guy they try to target the most, but quiet so far today with that wrist injury.
Turpin hit hard by Deneen. Dotson, the nation's leading receiver. That's his 79th catch of the season. More than 2,700 yards in his career. School record 29 touchdowns.
And he's really developed as a wide receiver. They've started to move him around, put him inside sometimes, and target him a bit more on third down, running a greater variety of routes this season as opposed to last year. I mean, he's primarily just a red zone target.
2nd and 7, play action. Kohlhausen has Hicks. Makes the adjustment for the reception. First down to the 12.
Great design by Doug Meacham and Sonny Cumbie. The play action fake to Kyle Hicks. Then they just slip him out of the backfield. Everyone's all caught up in trying to get back into pass coverage, and there's Kyle Hicks wide open down the field.
Javoris Johnson with a flag down, and Johnson pushed out inside the 5, but there is a flag around the line of scrimmage.
Holding, number 58 of the offense. 10-yard penalty from the previous spot. Replay first down.
Goes on Patrick Morris. Jamel Naff, the left guard, left with an injury during the first half. Injuries all over the place for this TCU squad.
Yeah, we saw number 72, Bobby Thompson, in initially, and then he actually got a penalty and was taken out. Now we see Patrick Morrison getting caught with the hold. Sometimes when you play at a really fast pace, forces those offensive linemen to get set and be able to get outside and do their assignment. That's not always so easy, and therein lies in the running game, a hold.
The Horned Frogs are the 6th most penalized team in the nation. Kohlhausen steps into his throw, and it's intercepted. Fish-Smithson heading the other way. Kansas has the football in a tie game against number 15. It's the junior out of Baltimore's 2nd pick of the season. And just when it seemed like TCU is ready to take control, Smithson's there for the interception. Jayhawks with the ball for the first time in the second half after this.
Let's take a look at this last interception by Bram Kohlhausen. Watch number 9, Fish-Smithson. He's going to be reading the quarterback's eyes the entire time, and there becomes this void in the middle of the field. Kohlhausen locks in, somewhat of an errant throw, and there's Fish-Smithson able to come away with the interception. Again, credit the junior who was able to read the quarterback's eyes of Kohlhausen. Sometimes when you're an inexperienced quarterback, you end up locking in on your reads since you don't have as much experience running this offense and knowing where guys are going to be.
This Kansas team trying to snap these skids. They've lost 12 in a row overall. Last time they won a game away from Lawrence, 2009. And they begin the second half in a ridiculous fashion. The same way they were plagued in the first half. 5th time there's been a false start related to a miscommunication of the snap.
Number 55 of the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
To your point, Joe, they've mixed up their cadence a bit. There's at times we've seen TCU kind of jump. So obviously they're trying to use variations of their cadence. But the hard part is it's actually fooling them, not the TCU defensive line.
They fake it to Cox, throw outside. Trey Parmalee, they get back to penalty yardage and a couple more. Parmalee with his 3rd reception, and it's 2nd down and 7.
Offensive coordinator Rob Likens for Kansas likes to utilize what they call these run action passes. That's actually a run play with a pass option on the outside. Willis wisely takes the pass option for a nice gain.
Tyler Patrick, his first catch. Gains only a yard. Pearson and Tua'ua. As a receiver, you never expect to get hit by defensive linemen, and he got hit by 2 of them. It's 3rd down for the Jayhawks.
This is a big 3rd down for Kansas. Can they utilize some of the momentum their defense just created for them? Can they sustain a drive and keep the chains moving? An empty set. They're going to put a lot of pressure now on Ryan Willis to be able to find the open target and deliver an accurate throw.
Against a 4-man rush, it's a screen. Steven Sims got away from Pearson, but that's it. Wound up not being a very good call to have on with just 4 men on the rush, and it's 4th down.
Well, not a bad idea by Kansas. But unfortunately for them, the TCU defense is too good at recognizing screens, and credit their defensive line. Davion Pearson. He was the guy to actually slow up Sims, not allow him to really get going. And by that time, reinforcements came. Now it's 4th down.
Jayhawks unable to take advantage of the interception. This punt sends Turpin back. It's a good one. Turpin gets covered well. Tackled by Ryan Shadler. Special team standout for the Jayhawks. Bram Kohlhausen in the offense, ready to come back out on the other side. Tie game, third quarter, and on behalf of our entire crew, everybody at Fox Sports, we want to take a moment to send out our thoughts and prayers to our director, Jeremy Green, who lost his father, Lewis, earlier this week. Our deepest sympathies out to his wife, Jean, Jeremy, and his 4 siblings. 4 generations of Greens all watching us out in Longview, Texas today. So our prayers are with you, Jeremy, and your entire family. We love you, man. We appreciate you being with us here today, despite that, but thinking of all you guys. 9:58 in the third quarter. Bram Kohlhausen in this offense back at it. And no gain, maybe even lost a yard on first down. Kapil Fletcher making a tackle on Kyle Hicks, who we've seen a good bit of in this ball game. Last 4 possessions since Boykin's injury. Punt, turnover on downs. Clock ran out. Kohlhausen threw an interception.
His first interception of the year. We'll see how he responds to it and if he can get some of his swagger back.
Steps into pressure and dumps it off. Hicks gets dropped in the backfield. Marquise Roberts, South Carolina transfer, who's dealt with injuries throughout his entire career, decided to transfer to Kansas for an opportunity to see the field in his senior season, or in his junior season. And right now he's got Kansas with a chance to get off the field. Against a 3-man rush, 8 in coverage, tight windows, and incomplete. Roberts, the center of attention again, chasing Hicks down the field. And TCU's punt team comes back out.
You know, it's interesting. The Kansas defense hasn't changed their game plan up, even with the change at quarterback. Still dropping 8 guys into coverage, and actually they're utilizing one of those players, number 41, Kendall Duckworth, as a spy for Kohlhausen in case he decides to leave the pocket. Very similar to what they did earlier in the game when Trevon Boykin was playing quarterback.
Ethan Perry, it's a good punt. Bagging Parmalee all the way to his own 30, lost it, got it, lost it again, but out of bounds. Got absolutely decked. Out of bounds by Derek Kindred. FS1 College Football is presented by K Jewelers. We're back to Fort Worth in a 10-10 game after this. Tied at 10, and a game that on paper was a clear mismatch. But Kansas hanging in there with number 15 TCU. All tied up midway through the third quarter.
Fox Sports Supports is proud to team up with the Movember Foundation and their commitment to changing the face of men's health. Join us at moteam.co/Fox-Sports to learn more about how we are getting involved in the Movember movement.
Gosh, during break you said you're going to read it like me. Is that how I sound?
No, you sound much better.
You usually do too. First down and 10 from the 28. And it's knocked down and incomplete. Off of the edge came Denzel Johnson.
Kansas has utilized that play a number of times throughout the course of the game, but Denzel Johnson now, and TCU defense has figured it out a bit. There's a free guy rushing at the quarterback. Why not put your hands up and knock the ball down?
Willis today, 14 of 21, 143 through the air. But on second down and 10, another snap problem through the timing of the playoff, and Hartzog thrown for a loss. Again, it's Denzel Johnson, and it's 3rd and long.
Well, the bad snap starts the issue with this play. Willis has to kind of adjust, then makes a bad throw in part because Keon Kinner gets in his way. That throws off Hartzog. He turns to the outside, isn't able to really see where the green grass is for a loss of yards. At some point, Kansas on offense has to make a big play if they want to try to win this game.
They had 4 plays of 40 yards or longer during the first half. Nothing in this second. Kinner sticks the shoulder down, but needed a lot more than that got only 5, fourth down. Ty Summers, the tackle.
Kansas just doesn't have enough talent, or at least their young talent isn't developed quite enough to compete with TCU. They can't keep relying on their defense to get stops and make tackles in open space versus this very talented TCU offense, regardless of whether Trevon Boykin's in or not. It's only a matter of time before TCU is going to be able to make a play or bust open a big run.
Turpin back there. He's the only guy that's gotten in the end zone today for TCU. Back in the first quarter, a 49-yard return. He really wanted to scoop that one up and bolt down the sideline, seeing a lot of green in front of him. But it bounces out of bounds in a 10-10 game. The TCU defense still playing hard. Ty Summers, a high school quarterback, looks plenty comfortable playing linebacker now. Frogs getting a little bit of taste of what it feels like to be Kansas. Down to their third quarterback now. Trevon Boykin out with an ankle injury. Kohlhausen ineffective. Foster Sawyer, the freshman, into the game. Tied at 10, 7:24 left, third quarter. Aaron Green behind him. He'll take it on first down and slip his way through for 6. Make it 7.
It doesn't matter whether it's Bram Kohlhausen or Foster Sawyer in. TCU's going to run the football, and they're going to try to pop a big run at some point just to try to force Kansas to get an extra guy down in the box.
Green again. Good push this time from the O-line, and a first down to the 44. Smithson with the tackle.
There's a misconception that because you want to spread offense, you need to throw the ball all the time. Really, when you spread out the field, it helps clean up the box count and allow for bigger running lanes.
Gotten in the pistol. They're going downhill and starting to pound away at Kansas. 5 more for Green and another tackle for Smithson.
Well, watch the block on the right side of the offensive line. Joseph Noteboom just boom. Throws Tevin Shaw out of the way, creates the hole for Aaron Green. The TCU defense or offensive line much more physical so far here in the second half.
That'd be aptly named Joseph Noteboom there, right?
Load the boom, huh?
Yeah. Foster Sawyer's first possession, trying to march TCU down the field for its first offensive score of the day. He'll throw it for the first time. Instead, he tucks it and has room for a first down. Let's go down to Chris Button.
Well, watching Boykin on the sidelines, he's remained heavily involved in the game plan, talking with Doug Meacham, bringing over Sean Nixon, explaining to him what he's been seeing on the sidelines.
Thank you, Chris. Sees the third quarterback out there now, and Sawyer. As they go to Hicks, foot in the ground, reversing field. Kyle Hicks, first down inside the 25.
The TCU athletes are too good in space. Look at Kyle Hicks, put his foot in the ground, little hesitation, leaves Ben Goodman in the dust. Then it's Brandon Stewart as he slips upfield for more yards.
Hicks having a good day, 48 yards, thrown behind Listenby on the slant. Kohlhausen or Sawyer got hit as he threw it.
You know, interesting note, we just talked about Joseph Noteboom at right tackle. They just moved him back to left tackle and then put in number 64, Matt Pryor, at right tackle. So TCU still moving around their offensive line and trying to deal with injuries for Vaitai, the normal left tackle, and Jamal Neff at left guard.
Yeah, the entire left side of that line on a normal Saturday out right now. Miscommunication. Sawyer turns it into something. Although when you're with your third quarterback, you hold your breath when you see that.
Yeah, but that's the right reaction. I mean, clearly a miscommunication between Aaron Green and Foster Sawyer, but he does the right thing. He turns around, finds the lane, gets upfield. He's just basically replacing the running back, trying to find the hole that Aaron Green was supposed to run through.
Third down and 7.
Listenby's right here in the slot.
Sawyer extending the play, turning the shoulders and throwing incomplete. Wanted Sean Nixon, covered by Joe Deneen. Fourth down, and Jaden Overcrome comes running out for a field goal attempt.
Just still surprised with the lack of targets to Josh Dotson, the leading wide receiver. Has set all sort of records here at TCU for a single season, even his career. just a bit surprising as one of the most targeted wide receivers. I understand he has an injured wrist, but we've already thrown one ball to him earlier in this game, and he caught it. Why not give him a couple more tries?
2 targets total. Now 1 catch and the one that went over his head. Overcomb's back out there. This one from 38 yards. And he's got it. Now within 2 makes of the Big 12 record. 73 in the senior's career. TCU back in front. So Horned Frog horn. They sound when they score. Usually you hear that a lot more often here. Kansas's defense deserves credit. 13-10, 5 left in the third.
Kansas's defense, some of the injuries to TCU, and musical chairs right now at quarterback. Foster Sawyer, the 3rd-string quarterback, leading the last drive, as opposed to Bram Kohlhausen, who came in for the injured Trevon Boykin.
Line drive kick. Chandler's got it. Ryan Chandler cut down to the 25. Time for a game break. Hello, Jenny Taft.
Thanks, Joe. As I mentioned earlier, both Texas and West Virginia need 2 wins to become bowl eligible. Mountaineer QB Skylar Howard connects with Da'Keel Shorts Jr. for the 8-yard touchdown as West Virginia has taken the 31-17 lead in the 4th quarter. Joe, back to you.
Up and down goes Texas this season.
It's really hard to tell what Texas is right now. Beat Kansas handily last week and now struggling versus West Virginia, but credit Skylar Howard.
25-yard line, throwing short side for Booker. Made 1-man miss. And Caraway rallied. Pick up a 5. You've said a couple times you want to see Kansas try to open it up some.
That's how they started the game. They started taking some shots downfield, trying to stretch out this TCU secondary, something that Oklahoma State was successful with last week. We haven't seen those shots here so far in the second half and really going back to the second quarter.
On 2nd and 4, it's Kinner. And several gray shirts waiting for him, filling that hole. Short gain, 3rd down. Traven Howard was there along with Denzel Johnson. 3rd and about 2 for the Jayhawks, and this crowd stands.
If I'm Kansas, I try to work the ball to number 16, Steven Sims. He's been a guy that they were able to get the ball to in the 1st quarter a decent amount, to have some nice yards after the catch. He's got a lot of quickness.
Willis throws incomplete. Should have been intercepted by Summers, and he did look for Sims. 4th down.
And credit linebacker Ty Summers. He read this the entire way. Kansas went to the well one too many times. They utilized this the exact same route to Steven Sims earlier for a 1st down. But in this particular case, Ty Summers was there to undercut it and not allow the conversion.
The 4th consecutive 3-and-out for this Kansas offense. Lyman with a body catch on that snap. Good high punt this time. Forces a fair catch from Turpin. UFC 193 is finally here. Starts on FS1 with a lineup of great fights, including the phenom Jake Matthews taking on the veteran and Akbar Ariola. One of the best matchups of the night. Start your fight night with a UFC 193 prelim. 7 Eastern tonight, only on FS1. Foster Sawyer back out for his 2nd drive. Marched him down the field his 1st time. They settled for a field goal to retake the lead. First down pass play. Sawyer sees room to take off. And gets 5.
Well, this play was designed to take a shot to number 7, Colby Listenby. He was isolated up one-on-one with Marnez Ogletree at the bottom of the screen. Look at Listenby off the ball, trying to utilize some of that 10-0 100-meter speed.
3-yard gain for Green, 3rd and 1. Kapil Fletcher credit for the tackle. Inside 3.5 left in this 3rd quarter.
Kansas Kansas is not able to do much with the ball on offense, and TCU is starting to gain momentum. Foster Sawyer starting to gain some confidence. They're leading his team down for a field goal in the last drive.
Some issues getting the right personnel on the field here. Finally, TCU's set with 5 seconds to snap it. They get it off and get a first down and more with Aaron Green across the 45. Arnez Ogletree with a tackle after a run of 10 yards.
TCU utilized this 2 tight end set at times. Number 84, Dominic Merca. Number 80, Buck Jones.
Green again made Tevin Shaw miss. He then recovered and pulled him down from behind after 7.
And all they're doing is just putting in some bigger bodies to help create more running lanes for Aaron Green and Kyle Hicks.
Heavy dose of Green. Another TCU first down to the 42 in Kansas territory. Green over 100 yards now. 114 on the afternoon. His 8th 100-yard rushing game. One of the very few vocal leaders they have on this team. Celebrating his senior day. Hicks comes in for him. Minimal gain. Courtney Arnick with the tackle. 2nd down and 8. Sawyer wants Porter. Pass interference.
Clearly there was some contact with Ogletree, but that ball didn't look catchable. So obviously they're throwing the flag well before you could even determine that, because there's so much contact in the beginning.
Pass interference, number 25 of the defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Clearly Ogletree making a ton of contact, but tries to look back for the ball, tries to do the right thing, but that's a lot of contact, and the ball was uncatchable. I don't think there's any way Emmanuel Porter could have brought that in, even standing at 6'4".
Moves it to the 25. Quarterback draw. Foster Sawyer slides his way to the 15. Freshman's giving him something, replacing Bram Kohlhausen, who replaced Trevon Boykin. Still looking for their first offensive touchdown of this game against winless Kansas.
TCU puts Josh Dotson on one side, Colby Listenby on the other. They're attracting a lot of attention. What opens up the middle of the field and running lanes for the quarterback.
It's Sawyer again getting a first down. Roberts the tackle. His helmet comes off. A little bit chippy right now. You got an 0-9 Kansas team, and you got a TCU team frustrated that 0-9 Kansas is still hanging around.
Look at the redshirt freshman quarterback all fired up. He runs for the first down, takes a shot from Marquise Roberts. Now he has to come out for a play because his helmet came off. So Bram Kohlhausen will now go back in at quarterback. We'll see what they put on his plate. I'll be curious to see if they give Josh Dotson an opportunity down here in the red zone. He's at the top of your screen, but it looks like Kansas is going to have double coverage on him.
Now, TCU fans may say, well, his helmet was ripped off. Why does he have to come out? Unless it's the product of a penalty, you have to come out for one play. Turpin. Inside the 10, Smithson with the tackle.
Kansas continues to keep giving Cavante Turpin all sorts of room in the slot. Keeping Fish Smithson, the rest about 10 yards off as Foster Sawyer enters the game again.
This crowd's loving Foster Sawyer. Final seconds, third quarter. 2nd down and 4. Quarterback draw. He gets decked. Marquise Roberts lets him know about it. 3rd down.
Kansas brought the house there. That was an all-out blitz. And TCU tried to counteract it with a quarterback draw, but they've got one guy they can't account for in the run blocking scheme.
And we've got something we didn't count on having. That is a game going into the 4th quarter. 13-10 TCU, but knocking on the door with a 3rd and short to begin the 4th. FS1 College Football is presented by Cade Jewelers. Start of the 4th quarter in Fort Worth. 3rd quarter was dominated by TCU. They outgained Kansas 164-18 during the 3rd. Now only 3 points to show for it, but here they are now beginning this 4th quarter with a 3rd down and 2 at the Kansas 6.
You know, I'll be curious to see how the Kansas defense wants to come out and try to defend TCU. TCU has in their 2 run-blocking tight ends, and Buck Jones and Dominic Murka. This is typically their short yardage personnel.
They've got the 6'4" Porter deployed out there to the far side. It's shut down. Hicks fighting his way, still fighting, and finally they blow the whistle. No gain as they plug things in the middle. 4th down and 2.
And you go back to last week versus Oklahoma State. TCU just struggles in some of those short yardage situations. Kind of all of a sudden get out of a rhythm and get out of these spread formations where they're able to run the football with a zone read scheme and throw the football around, and they just have a difficult time trying to push opponents off the line.
Remember, during the first half, TCU was stopped in a 4th down and short. They go for it here on 4th down and 3.
Looks like Kansas is going to load the box, but check out Josh Dotson one-on-one.
Thrown the other way, end zone, incomplete. Kansas has slammed the door again. And the Jayhawks still breathing. The Jayhawks still believing. Tried to throw the fade ball for Emmanuel Porter with the nation's leading receiver standing on the other side of the field. Back here in Fort Worth, Texas. Initially established as an Army outpost in 1849. Fort Worth Stockyards. Great town to spend a weekend in. Just ask Kansas right now. 13-10. They're in this ball game early on in the 4th and coming off the 2nd stoppage on 4th down today of TCU's #2 nationally ranked offense.
Interesting decision, though, by quarterback Foster Sawyer to go to Emmanuel Porter, who's just coming back from injury, as opposed to the best wide receiver in the country in Josh Dotson. I'm not sure why you play him if you aren't going to target him more for TCU on offense.
You've been talking about Kansas taking some more shots like they did earlier in the game. Here it's thrown underneath and completed to Booker. Jeremiah Booker with a completion, 6 yards. Corey O'Mealy with the tackle, 2nd down and 4.
Ryan Willis is gimpy a bit as he got pressured and as he delivered the football on the throw. He's battling with, I guess, what they call 2 pulled groins. And he's not necessarily as mobile as he'd like to be, but he's battling through it. He's playing tough. Dave Beatty gave him a lot of credit.
This is how they deal with the noise. You saw the guard looking back there for the hand signal. He then delivers the tap to the center, Houghton. And Willis floating one down the field for Sims, who tried to go inside. Kindred in coverage, 3rd and 3 as we go back to the previous play.
Well, Willis is going to feel a little bit of pressure from the inside by Caraway. Slides to his right, makes the throw, but starts to grab up near. Looks like the hamstring, but sometimes it attaches up in that groin area. I'm not a doctor, don't quote me on it, but I've dealt with some of that before as a quarterback, and believe me, it's incredibly hard to move around in the pocket if you've got issues in that area.
Kansas somehow in this game, despite being 1 for 10 on 3rd down today. On 3rd and 3, Taylor Cox stacked up just short. Nick Orr in from his corner spot in there with Ty Summers. They've spotted him about a foot short.
There's no way you were thinking about going for this deep into TCU territory, but it looks like Ryan Willis thinks that they're actually giving it to him, and it seemed to be a pretty favorable spot. But
or he's just wishful thinking that you're going to let him go for it.
Well, either way, 0-9.
What do you got to lose?
This close. What do you have to lose?
Agree.
And you've got to try to find some sort of way of getting momentum, at least on the offensive side of the football.
Well, Nick Orr sticking his nose in there.
These TCU defensive backs, they're feisty. They'll stick their nose in the run game, and they're coached hard by Coach Gary Patterson.
I say go for it. I mean, who am I? But they're going to bring the punt team out.
You know, it's interesting. I was talking to defensive coordinator Clinton Boehm, who was the interim coach last season, and there was a 4th and 6 where they elected to kick a field goal instead of going for it and possibly putting away TCU. And he told me, because they ended up losing in the end. Yeah. TCU came back, but he told me he regretted that decision still to this day of not taking it into his own hands and trying to end the game then.
So Wyman sends away a tight spiral that drives Turpin back. And out of bounds on a punt that they will spot at the 41-yard line. 44-yarder from Matthew Wyman. TCU offense back in the field after this. Take a look at the Lincoln Motor Company game summary. The second half, really, by the numbers, other than the points, which bottom line is the one that matters, has been dominated by TCU, but still 13-10, 12:47 left.
And really TCU in the second half. First half, I think it was still favoring the Kansas offense and the way they played, but TCU even making a change at quarterback, still running the football effectively, whether it was Bram Kohlhausen or Foster Sawyer. They're running the operation in an effective manner. Kohlhausen just one poor throw, really not even a bad decision. I think the wide receiver was open for TCU, but just a little off the mark.
David Beatty elects to punt the football back to TCU. So Foster Sawyer back in at quarterback. They start this drive with a Listenby end around, and the track All-American has a first down. Smithson makes the tackle after 11.
Well, you got to look for creative ways to get into some of these speedsters in space, and Colby Listenby is a guy who's been hampered a little bit by injury this season. Kind of got off to a slow start. I'd like to see them try to work the ball more in his direction.
Aaron Green running hard. Been a good day for him. 119 yards.
Going back, talking about the decision to punt right there. Maybe you play it safe if you're Dave Beatty. Maybe you say, well, they've got a third-string quarterback in Foster Sawyer. Bram Kohlhausen's already thrown a pick earlier in this game. Maybe you put more pressure on Sawyer and see if your defense can come up with another turnover or a big play.
Yeah, and your defense has not given up a touchdown today. Sawyer stands in on the money for Sean Nixon. Inside the end zone. Touchdown TCU when they needed it most.
It was only a matter of time before one of the playmakers for TCU was going to make a big play and make someone miss in space. Joe Deneen loses Sean Nixon in space as he turns back around to find the quarterback's eyes, and Nixon does the rest, getting by Fish Smithson, one of the better tacklers for the Kansas defense.
Oberkrom adds the extra point. TCU, one of the nation's top offenses, averaging close to 50 a game, has the first offensive touchdown of the day 3+ minutes into the fourth quarter. Foster Sawyer with a touchdown throw, the third quarterback that's played today for the Frogs. FS1 College Football is presented by K Jewelers. Sean Nixon with the touchdown reception from Foster Sawyer to give TCU the 20-10 lead against an offense that has struggled to get anything going. So that 10-point gap feels ginormous right now. Taylor Cox back to return this kick from Jaden Oberkrom. It'll be Shadler coming out of the end zone. Cox wanted to stop him from a yard deep. Somehow recovered to deliver a blow. And Shadler took it across the 25-yard line. Time for a game break. Here's Jenny Taft.
Thank you, Joe. Number 16, Florida State hosting North Carolina State. These two were tied at half. This after an NC State turnover. Sean McGuire connects with Kermit Whitfield, 27 yards for the touchdown. The Seminoles pulling ahead 27-17 in the third quarter. Joe?
Interesting game. Quarterback Everett Golson back behind center to start off after Sean McGuire replaced him after he was injured. But then after throwing 2 interceptions, Sean McGuire back in to help lead the Noles ahead of NC State.
You saw the number there. Kansas without a first down in this half. 4 3-and-outs. They'll take a shot down the sideline and broken up. Torrance Mosley made the play on Bobby Hartzog. Second down.
And this is exactly how you teach a cornerback to play this deep ball. Keeps in phase right at the hip of Hartzog, turns back to locate the football, and then makes a play on it to either cause interception or an incompletion. These are the sorts of plays that the TCU quarterbacks needed to make last week versus Oklahoma State.
Mosley and O'Mealy traded numbers earlier this year, by the way. O'Mealy now 3, Mosley now 2, making that play. 2nd and 10. Willis will try it again. This time it's Tyler Patrick, and it's incomplete. Well, they're at least taking some shots like you wanted.
Yeah, maybe not back-to-back like this, but look, if you're Tyler Patrick, this is a tough catch, but you got to find a way to make it. Kansas has to find a way of one of these young wide receivers making a big play for him to get them over the hump. Now you find yourself in 3rd and long with TCU knowing that you can only pass in this scenario.
A bullet to the outside is dropped. Steven Sims was ready to turn inside and get a first down. Instead, the 6th consecutive 3-and-out.
And look at the separation Sims gets at the top of the route. I mean, O'Mealy just flies right by. And a great ball by Ryan Willis. You can't ask for much more. Unfortunately, the true freshman showing a bit of his inexperience, or I guess youth.
Line drive gives Turpin a chance, but he's pulled down. Stop made by Colin Spencer on special teams. David Beatty having to console Sims coming off of the field. Willis as well to put the ball on the money.
Look at the road that Stanford has to play next 3 games. Not easy. It starts tonight, and for Oregon, quarterback Vernon Adams has to take care of the football because Stanford does such a good job of winning the time of possession. And really, they don't make many mistakes. A very, very smart and well-coached football team out there in Palo Alto.
Who would have thought we'd be talking about Stanford as a potential playoff team after they lose to Northwestern in the opener? Foster Sawyer hands it off, and there goes Aaron Green. Staying on his feet. All the way to the 22. 49 yards for the senior.
Well, when the defense has struggled, it was quarterback Trevon Boykin who would pick up the slack and make plays. With Trevon Boykin out, now it shifts to the senior, Aaron Green, making plays and helping eat up some yards in the running game and take some of the pressure off of both Colhausen and Sawyer at quarterback.
Javoris Johnson comes in. Batters his way for 4 and gets thrown down after the whistle. No flag. Season high 11 tackles for Marquise Roberts now, who's been in the middle of a couple of altercations, extracurriculars after the play.
You're an 0-9 team. I mean, a lot of these players are tired of losing. They're getting frustrated out there. It's a physical and emotional game, and it's a tipping point. And I think for Marquise Roberts, he's played a great game today. And to be so close versus the number 13 team in the country, or 15 team, excuse me, it's very frustrating.
Timeout right before the ball was snapped.
Timeout. TCU. First charge timeout of the half.
That's what you get with an inexperienced quarterback. You didn't see the play clock running down, and everyone's yelling on the sidelines, and the coach is trying to signal for a timeout to let them know.
They do get the timeout. Their first one of the half. How about Aaron Green today? 24 carries, 167 yards on his senior day.
Just a tremendous athlete. Does a good job of being able to see the holes open. He's patient enough as a runner, but also tough enough to be able to battle through tackles and get the additional yards downfield. You know, this is really a performance that, to me, is a week too late. They should have utilized Aaron Green more last week versus Oklahoma State, and I think there possibly would have been a different outcome. And who knows, maybe TCU would be entering this game still undefeated. But Aaron Green, this will be a senior day that he'll always remember. As a former player, these are the types of moments that you always look back on very fondly, and I'm sure he's going to have a number of them. But a performance like this, with the absence of Trevon Boykin really helping to carry this team, Aaron Green will always remember this.
Former highly touted recruit out of San Antonio, started his career at Nebraska. Transferred to TCU after his freshman season, took over the starting role for B.J. Catalan midway through last year, and has had to carry the load today with Trevon Boykin out. Foster Sawyer in. 2nd down and 7. And Sawyer back to throw. Looking end zone, and tipped into the air and incomplete. Finally targeted Dotson, but Glatzik flew over and broke it up. 3rd down.
Yes. Sawyer was staring down this route almost the entire time, walking in. Glatzik didn't really move, just stayed right there, waiting on Dotson to come to him.
It's a pretty ball. Nice spiral. Got that going for him. 3rd and 7. Scrambling away from Alobia. Floating it dangerously for Nixon and incomplete. So 4th down. And a nice job by Kansas defense to keep it a 2-score game.
But the offense for Kansas needs to start doing their part if they want to start chipping away at the margin that has been created by the TCU offense, who's really exploded in the 2nd half. That's hard. You know, when you're rotating in quarterbacks and you've got an injury to your starter, it's hard then, even as for a play caller like Doug Meacham, Sonny Cumbie, to find a rhythm and figure out what these quarterbacks feel most comfortable doing along the course of the game.
Oberchrome hits it. His 3rd of the day, and now within 1 of the Big 12 record held by Michael Honeycutt for career makes. His 74th. David Beatty's team needs to get it going on offense. 9:51 left. Jayhawks sold him to a field goal, so it remains a 2-score game. But you know, this Kansas offense is going to have to get it going. Their last first down was in the 1st half.
Yeah, and it's been part because they haven't had much success on 1st down in the majority of those series, and it's put them in 2nd and long and really then 3rd and long. That's going to be difficult for any team to try to convert, regardless of kind of experienced quarterback or team you have.
Keep it away from Shadler. It's Cox who's got the rushing touchdown today for Kansas. Back to the 23. There's a new tradition in college basketball you're not going to want to miss. Gavitt tip-off games pits the Big East against the Big Ten for 4 days of incredible action starting Tuesday. Nebraska and Villanova on FS1. Kansas, of course, known as a basketball school, number 4 in the country coming into the year. They scored 109 points in their opener last night against Northern Colorado.
Villanova, you just saw there on the screen, they scored 91 in a big win over Farley Dickinson. So both teams impressive offensively.
14-0 as far as first downs in this half. TCU with the advantage. Parmalee down the middle. Did that ball come out?
It looked like it might have.
He got hammered by Nick Orr. Who becomes the latest Horned Frog slow to get up.
Well, well-designed play by the Kansas offensive coordinator, Rob Likens. Little play-action pass. Parmalee makes it look like he's going to go down the block and then releases up into the seam. And Nick Orr sees it coming the entire way, and it doesn't appear as if Trey Parmalee is able to maintain possession of the football as he comes to the ground. This will most likely be overturned and coming back. You see it different, Joe?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I'm surprised that it even was ruled a completion to begin with. His defense continues to be ravaged by injuries. They had to replace 6 of their top 7 tacklers from last year. They've already lost 5 projected starters coming into the season. McFarland with a toe injury. Douglas with a knee injury, both in the front 7. Iloka, a safety, went down with a knee injury. Tejada, their top corner, out with a knee injury. And Mike Freeze left the program for personal reasons. So they were already having to replace a ton. And you put this on top of it, everything they've dealt with. 8-1 record. Well, those playoff hopes diminished greatly, clearly by the loss last week. But if they're able to run the table down the stretch here, finish as a 1-loss team, go to a your New Year's 6 bowl game, that's quite an achievement when you consider everything this team has had to deal with.
Yeah, Gary Patterson self-admittedly saying, that's something he would be extremely happy about, considering everything they've had to endure and battle through this season with all these injuries. You talked about the effectiveness of TCU on defense. It's been in part because they've been so good on 3rd down. 14th in the country, number 1 in the Big 12 as we take another look.
It's pretty clearly an incompletion, isn't it?
Yeah, it appears so. It's tough to see the ball come out and hit the ground in that particular angle. This will give us a better view. You can see the ball comes out there at the very end.
Richard Jordan, our replay official. Eddie Shelton.
After further review, the ruling is an incomplete pass. The ball will be placed on the 23-yard line, 2nd down.
How many miles do you think he's logged on his Fitbit today?
He told us, what was it, last week he logged 7 miles? Was
7.5.
7.5. Eddie wears a Fitbit as he runs up and down the field a little bit. He actually said, he goes, I don't actually move as much as some of the other officials on the crew. It's 7.5 miles last week.
Yeah. So I think track calories. How many calories do you think you burn going 7.5 miles like this?
I don't know. I don't have a Fitbit.
No, I don't either. I've got a different brand one. You're looking at me like, yeah, you do. Willis going outside, looking for Sims, 3rd down.
Another nice ball by Ryan Willis, just a bit too far outside, almost took out the guy holding the yard marker there to make it 3rd and 10. Again, just starting to see as they put more pressure on Ryan Willis and the receivers for Kansas, you kind of start to see some of their inexperience and the youth show. Just not on the same page, not really able to connect or sustain anything here in the 2nd half.
1 for 12 on 3rd down today for Kansas. Willis going to try to run for it with those 2 bad groins. He's got it. And a 1st down to the 45. It's a 23-yard run.
I mean, he's even having a hard time get up. I mean, Dave Beatty talked about last week him walking in at halftime versus Texas. He said the way he was hobbling, he didn't think he could go on, but he reassured his coach. He said, I'm going to fight through it. I'm going to find a way. Just a gutsy performance by Ryan Willis.
Still plenty of time. All 3 timeouts for Kansas. They go straight ahead for a gain of 1. Kidder. 17 of 31, 153 for Willis, who today became the all-time leading freshman passer at KU.
And the biggest key being no turnovers so far today. He's giving his team an opportunity to stay within the football game, trusting his defense and trying to battle it out. But these are the small incremental steps you'd like to see from a true freshman quarterback.
On the ground again, Kinner hurdling his way for a nice gain, 3rd down and short. Talking about the toughness of Ryan Willis. He committed to Charlie Weiss, and then David Beatty took over and we wanted to keep Willis aboard, but told him, there's a chance we may bring other guys in. Willis told him, feel free to bring in more. I'm going to beat him out.
One of the most prolific passers at Bishop Mage High School in Kansas City.
3rd down and 2. Over the middle, 1st down. Ben Johnson, but there's a flag down at the line of scrimmage.
Ineligible receiver, downfield offense. Number 84 was covered up. 5-yard penalty. He played 3rd down.
Well, you can't have another wide receiver outside of Ben Johnson on the line of scrimmage as well. That obviously was the case, hence the call. And you can see right down here at the bottom of your screen, that looks like number 4, Tyler Patrick. He's got to be off the football in order for Ben Johnson to be considered an eligible wide receiver and released downfield in the passing game.
That's one of those David Beatty can't live with. He talks about controlling the controllables.
Yeah, and you only have to have, I think they call it a blade of grass, but that was pretty definitive. Tyler Patrick was covering up Ben Johnson.
So instead of a 1st down to the 35-yard line, 3rd and 7. They shift personnel some. Ben Johnson goes out, the tight end, replaced by a receiver, and Shaquem Barbell. Willis taking a shot, one-on-one. Hartzog made the catch. Bobby Hartzog went up and got it against Torrance Mosley for a game-saving 38-yard completion for now.
And what a play, what a connection, what a time to finally make one of these deep plays happen. Hartzog came down a bit awkwardly as he brought in the football and ensured the catch. Credit Hartzog fighting through what looked to be some sort of injury as he comes off the field.
Keeps the heartbeat going for Kansas. Kinner looking for a seam. Cut down by Kindred.
Keon Kinner cut that run up. Right guard number 62, DeAndre Banks, was outside pulling, and he was leading the brigade, but he's all by himself on the outside. Typically, you'd like to have your offensive lineman in front of you if you're running back, leading the way.
Slow down, big fella. 2nd and 9, clock winding, 7 minutes, and a 2-score game. Patrick for 4. 3rd down and 5 for KU. And this is 4-down territory, no doubt, down by 2 touchdowns.
This is the area of the field. We saw it last week. Ryan Willis utilizing his legs to be able to run a little bit, in particular on 3rd down and some of those red zone opportunities. But the way he's feeling right now, the way he's been moving today, the injury to his groin, I don't know how effective he'd be.
Oh my goodness, 4th down. Mosley drilled Parmalee, who's slow to get up.
We saw this play earlier in the game. Ty Summers made a great play on 3rd down to bat it away from Trey Parmalee. They come back to it again, and Terrence Mosley, with not much field to cover, being down in the red zone, wisely keeps his eyes on the quarterback and breaks on Parmalee to cause the incompletion. Parmalee's still down on the field.
Willis, an emotional guy. He's worn it on his sleeve all afternoon. And the senior gets to his feet.
His father, Bernie Parmalee, played with the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets for 9 seasons in the NFL. He's coached at multiple levels, college and the NFL. Trey Parmalee has molded himself a bit as his father, been a leader on this Kansas football team that's obviously still hungry and trying to find a way to get their first win this season. Coaching staff said he's a tremendous example of what we'd want all our players to be with their work ethic and so forth.
Dan right now coaching running backs for the Raiders. 4th down and 5 for Kansas. Got to have it. Willis dumps it off. Patrick running for a 1st down and a touchdown. Kansas not done yet.
Well, it may not appear like it, but this was actually a pick play. You're going to see Tyler Patrick come across, and you're going to see some of the offensive wide receivers start to kind of essentially set screens on this side of the field. That's the running back, Taylor Cox, coming out to pick off number 42, Ty Summers. It's hard to see down there, and it's definitely a legal play because the ball was actually caught before any of the wide receivers made contact with the TCU defender.
Wyman with the extra point, 6:19 to go. 6-point game. 0-9 Kansas looking to shock TCU, looking for its first road win since 2009. Horned Frogs trying to bounce back from their first loss of the season, but in a dogfight in Fort Worth. Patrick, a crossing pattern, gets his 2nd touchdown of his career. Redshirt freshman from here in Texas in the Woodlands. Guy who was on the scout team during fall camp, but he climbed the depth chart, playing a more significant role and a big-time touchdown there to make it a 6-point game with 6:19 left.
Clearly plenty of time. I think what you're going to see at TCU on this next possession is a heavy dose of running the football. Been very effective with it in the 2nd half. Aaron Green, Kyle Hicks, Travoris Johnson, they're bigger back. I would assume they'd like to take some time off the clock. Try to play that physical batter up front on the offensive line.
Wyman's had a good day kicking it for the most part. It's out of the back of the end zone. TCU with its 3rd quarterback to start at the 25. Time for a game break with Jenny Taff.
Thanks, Joe. Number 18 Northwestern hosting Purdue. This one was close all day, but final minutes of the game, Justin Jackson barrels his way into the end zone for the score. Northwestern wins this one, 21-14 final. Joe Brady, back to you.
All right, Jenny, so back comes TCU. And Foster Sawyer, who replaced Bram Kohlhausen, who was ineffective, replacing the injured Trevon Boykin. 1st down from the 25. On the ground, it's Green making a man miss. Stopped by Smithson.
And Tevin Shaw, the guy who had a missed opportunity there on the line of scrimmage. And Kansas is going to have to find a way to make tackles in open space down the stretch.
And Smithson, the nation's number 2 solo tackler. He's having that right foot, it looks like, or right leg looked at.
And he would be a major loss to this Kansas defense, given his productivity, making tackles for them, and particularly in the open field, but also his leadership. As you see, it gets caught a little bit underneath as he goes to the ground. Bazzie Bates and Michael Glatzik would most likely be the 2 safeties now for Kansas.
And it is Glatzik that replaces him, who was starting prior to this week. Bates took over his spot. And Glatzik back into the lineup with the injury. Draw play on 2nd down, and Green gets drilled. Oh, Joe Deneen, 3rd down for TCU.
The former running back absolutely lays the wood. Let's talk about a form tackle. That is exactly what you teach. Deneen, who's battled with broken thumbs. You can see his hands are taped up a bit. One of the toughest players on this Kansas defense.
Here you go, 3rd and 7 with 5.5 left. Kansas rushes only 3. Sawyer, time to scan the field. Turns the corner, goes out of bounds. Kansas forces the 3 and out. With 5:20 to go, they'll get it back.
The Kansas defense implementing that same strategy that West Virginia's used really the past couple years. Oklahoma State last week, only a 3-man rush. keeping a spy out for the running back and for Foster Sawyer, and forcing him to have to use his arm and make throws in tight windows.
Parmalee goes back for this Perry punt. Good hang time on it. Parmalee with a fair catch at the 25. And that is where Kansas will begin, down 6. With the freshman Ryan Willis having a day to remember, 20 of 35 for more than 200 yards.
And he's been very opportunistic, played smart, a good decision maker, not making really any mistakes so far. And a one-score ball game, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, as this Kansas team's looking to try to find their first win of the season. These are the type of moments that you try to build on, in particular with a young quarterback. And regardless of how the rest of his career goes, he will always remember this comeback victory if indeed he can pull it off.
From the 26, by his lonesome in the backfield. Got rid of it down the middle and incomplete. Parmalee broke it off. He went down the seam, 2nd and 10. They had 7 consecutive 3-and-outs, did Kansas. The last drive, they went 77 yards and scored a touchdown. What changed?
Well, it's a big play, right? They finally connected to Bobby Herzog on the outside, and that was what sparked it all to give them an opportunity. You see they're going right back to it, trying to take shots downfield, but for the majority of the day, they've missed on a bunch of those opportunities.
2nd and 10. Willis pressured, got rid of it and incomplete. Nearly intercepted by Ridwan Issahaku as Caraway brought the heat, 3rd down.
Yeah, Josh Caraway was barreling down on Ryan Willis, and we see the lack of mobility. Usually he'd be able to get outside the pocket and at least cut upfield for a big play. But now, 3rd and 10, again, another 3rd and long situation. This defensive front for TCU is going to have their ears pinned back, rushing after Ryan Willis, who can really do so little right now, battling that groin injury.
Oh, and Kansas has to use the timeout.
Timeout, Kansas. First charge timeout of the half.
Remember that. If they need those timeouts to stop the clock after handing the ball back to TCU. 3rd and 10 on the other side. Jayhawks trying to come from behind and snap the nation's longest losing streak. Trying to get David Beatty his first win as a head coach. Native of Wiley, Texas. Dallas-Fort Worth area. He's a head coach in Irving at MacArthur High School. But his team's looking at a big 3rd down and 10 here.
Yeah, he's going up against a defense that likes to try to have single one-on-one coverage all the way on the outside, force more double coverage on the inside, making those easier completions around the middle of the field harder for opposing quarterbacks and forcing you to have to throw a further ball all the way to the outside for those one-on-one matchups.
Three-man rush, double clutches, incomplete. It hit O'Mealy right in the arms, but he didn't see it coming. And the punt team comes out on 4th down.
Well, they actually tried to set up the exact same play they used to score the touchdown on the previous drive. This is basically a one-man read. They're trying to go to Steven Sims, utilizing once again the running back Taylor Cox to kind of lead block for him. It's almost a screen. But in that particular case, TCU, they're too good at adjusting. Once they see something once, they do a nice job of identifying it again and not allowing it to work.
Wyman on to punt it. This is a good one. It's a really good one. Turpin has it bounce over his head, takes a TCU bounce out of bounds at the 21. It's a 53-yarder for Matthew Wyman, 5 short of his season high. So 4:36 and a 6-point lead for TCU. That old 4-minute offense trying to run some clock.
And you talked about the timeout that Kansas just used in this previous drive on 3rd down. We'll be coming in to miss that if they can't get a stop here. Which is TCU, has been extremely effective running the football, although they open up this series sitting in an empty set. That's just not their identity. They want to spread the football around in the passing game and spread out the field.
Wanted to go to Turpin, crossing the field, but incomplete. Second down.
I love this. Two different teams, the exact same play run by each opponent. TCU sees it, and they're like, yeah, actually, we have that in our playbook. Let's run it. This is another play designed specifically for Kavontae Turpin, where every other wide receiver is essentially running down to block their man across from them.
K-State, Texas Tech follows us, but essentially you've just handed that third timeout back to Kansas with the incomplete pass. Green pulled down by Goodman. It's third down, 4:25 and counting. And David Beatty holding on to those timeouts for now.
This is the area where it becomes so hard to defend because you have these run-pass options where Foster Sawyer can hand this football off or possibly pull and throw to the outside. So as a defense, even though you try to put an extra guy down around the line of scrimmage to stop the run, your outside defensive backs have to do a good job in coverage and not allowing these TCU wide receivers to get upfield for the first down.
You saw Aaron Green, a new career high on a day where Trevon Boykin went out with an ankle injury during the first quarter. They empty it out again. Sawyer's under pressure, and he is sacked. Kansas's defense does the job again. Joe Deneen with a stop. We wind inside of 340, and TCU will punt it.
Obviously not the result you want from the play, but the wise thing that Foster Sawyer does is he doesn't find anything, can't see anyone downfield, so he starts to run, which is key. Because if you would have thrown this football away, it stops the clock. So now by getting down, and even though he takes a sack, the clock continues to churn. Not to the like of Kansas.
The Jayhawks don't use a single timeout on that possession, and I think only about a minute and a half of game time runs out. Perry's punt, a short one, fair catch. Parmalee. How about this field position for the Jayhawks? 48-yard line. You mentioned it last possession. These are the moments you can create a legacy on. These can be the foundation for what people remember you for. Brian Willis couldn't move the chains last time. Another opportunity here with 3:04 left.
Well, again, plenty of time. You've got two timeouts. The clock stops after a first down in college football. Doesn't start back up until those chains are reset. So Kansas has really everything at their disposal at this point in time. They don't have to feel too pressured to take shots or throw the football downfield, at least not right now.
Willis with time down the seam and intercepted. Threw it right to Ty Summers. Cut down at the 46. First interception of the freshman's career.
Head coach Dave Beatty talked about not making any mistakes that lose them the game at the quarterback position. Well, this is one of those mistakes. Ty Summers picks up Kenner out of the backfield. Once he gets into phase at his hip, turns around to locate the football and makes the easy interception. Kansas trying to utilize that one-on-one matchup vertically up the field. But to me, that seems a little bit desperate, trying to get a chunk when you don't need it. You've got good field position. It's first down, 3 minutes left with 2 timeouts in the game. Utilize a shorter, easier pass for Ryan Willis and get that drive started. Credit Ty Summers. He's had a fantastic game today.
Gary Patterson, always coaching, met him at the sideline and said, go down after you pick it. Green tackled by Glatzik, and now you would assume David Beatty will start burning those timeouts. Not yet. He's only got 2 left, so perhaps he uses it on second and third down.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to leave your offense as much time as possible. Look, clearly Dave Beatty knows what he wants to do. He's holding him in his back pocket for a reason.
They'll run that play clock all the way down inside of 2:10. Yeah, give it to Green again. So use the first of the remaining timeouts there, 1 left.
And I'm just not sure that makes much sense to me why he wouldn't use it after the first down play, but and now you're using it.
Sure, he's got his reasons. 2:05 left, yeah. 3rd down and 5 coming up for TCU from midfield. 1 timeout left for Kansas in a 23-17 game that I don't think anybody thought would be this close.
No, I mean, no one thought that coming into the game. Clearly the injuries to TCU played a part. Although credit Kansas, I mean, early on in this game, even with Trevon Boykin in, their defense did the job. They kind of towed the line, and they did exactly what I think we've seen other teams like Oklahoma State and West Virginia, who've given TCU some trouble over the past couple years, did.
Any chance of putting the ball in the air here?
I don't think so. I mean, you're up by a touchdown at this point in time. Try to take more time off the clock. Kansas obviously has another timeout, so you'd think they'd use it.
Let's see, 3rd and 5. The box is crowded as you'd expect. They run it, and Green is hit in the backfield by the senior Goodman, giving the Jayhawks one last gasp.
Well, Kansas is crowding everyone up around the line of scrimmage, trying to stop the run, and Ben Goodman has a free run. Just nowhere for Aaron Green to go. I mean, you'd think you'd have someone responsible for a defensive end on the edge of the line of scrimmage. I'm sure that was a missed assignment up front, either by the TCU offensive line or the pulling tight end blocking.
So David Beatty, despite burning that timeout on offense, still able to have enough to do what he needed to, and that is get the ball back to the offense for one more shot. Ryan Willis will head back out there.
And again, all you're really looking for right now is an opportunity and a chance, and that chance has been made possible by the Kansas defense. They've been outstanding today, given how bad they struggled really all throughout the season.
Yeah.
They've really done the job and given their offense an opportunity to have a chance at winning the game here with 2 minutes left.
It's one of the great statistical mismatches you're ever going to find. You know, the number 2 offense in the country against the worst defense in the country. Now, the last time that happened, last time there was a matchup of those sorts, 2011, it was a 1-point game. Baylor beat Kansas 31-30. So this isn't unprecedented, still surprising. Perry trying to pin him, make it a long field. Parmalee with a fair catch. And they'll need to go 84 yards in 1:54 to snap a 12-game losing streak and to snap a 37-game losing streak away from Lawrence that dates back 6 years to when Ryan Willis was in junior high. These teams typically have played close, compelling games, even last year when TCU was the number 4 team in the country. They had to score or erase a 10-point second-half deficit to win that one by 4 in Lawrence.
And if you're Ryan Willis right now, the biggest key is just getting off to a good start. You threw an interception the last time you're out in the field. Get something positive out of this first play and get this drive started.
8 drop into coverage. Willis has Parmalee, who drops the football. Would have been a gain of about 25. Instead, 2nd and 10.
The senior, the leading wide receiver, and the best hands on the team. You need him to come through in moments like this to be able to pull off big upsets. But again, credit Denzel Johnson. He got back close enough to Trey Parmalee to get a hand in on the football and not allow him to come down for the completion. Good ball, though, by Ryan Willis.
5th straight incompletion for Kansas. 2nd down and 10. Willis takes his eyes down. 2 bad groins, only can run for 2 yards. Clock runs 3rd and 8.
And that was supposed to be a screen to Keon Kinner, the running back. As Ryan Willis looked off the defense, he kind of turned back around and realized TCU had sniffed it out.
Fourth down. Wanted Hartzog, defended by Mosley.
Willis at this point having a really hard time moving outside the pocket. You almost feel as if he's a sitting duck. 4th and 8. You got to work to one of your best wide receivers, and if it's me, I'm thinking Steven Sims or Trey Parmalee. They're both up here at the top of your screen.
Three-man rush gets home. Terrell Lathan puts an end to Kansas's hopes of snapping the streak.
And Terrell Lathan beat left tackle, the true freshman, Clyde McCauley, right off the ball. That's what's called a bull rush, ladies and gentlemen. And it's where you take every bit of that 280-pound frame of Lathan and you take it right in to the opposing offensive tackle on through to the quarterback. Huge play. We talked about it before. This defensive line, every single time TCU needs a big play on defense, it seems to be one of those guys up front making it.
So Kansas out of timeouts. Victory formation, 21st century victory formation. They still snap it shotgun, and then Sawyer takes a knee.
It looks a little different than when you and I used to play, right?
Yeah.
Much more, loss of yardage there for their overall running game.
Much more comfortable for this group, though. Dr. Pepper, one-of-a-kind play of the game. The only offensive touchdown of the day for TCU. Sawyer hit Nixon, who broke a couple of tackles and got in. It was 13-10 at that point. They added a field goal. And the defense came up with a stop here down the stretch. That's the one-of-a-kind Dr. Pepper play of the game.
The redshirt freshman Nixon's been very clutch so far this season. Him and Devontae Turpin have really taken over and done a nice job as slot wide receivers for TCU's offense.
And so TCU going to survive this one to get to 9-1 in the season, and more heartbreak for Kansas and David Beatty. They fall to 0-10.
TCU's goals of winning the Big 12 are still alive. We talked about it before the game. But they've got to win out, and they've got to get some help. And Oklahoma State has to lose. And now without Trevon Boykin, we'll see how their future, see what it holds.
Let's get you out to Lubbock now. K-State and Texas Tech. Tim Brando, Spencer Tillman with the call.